Order the meeting for Rochester City Council. Tonight is April 14th. Good evening. Please join me in the roll call. City Clerk, please.
Salvia.
Here.
Nixon.
Here.
Hauser.
Here.
Jones. King.
Here.
Sage.
Here.
Trent.
Here. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get into public comment, I would like, this past week, we had a funeral for one of our Rochester, I call her a modern pioneer, Mary Lee Kowalczyk. Her son, during the funeral mass, commented on how much Mary Lee loved Rochester. And, you know, there's many of us that love Rochester, but Mary Lee had a particular love for Rochester, which she demonstrated for so many years through her service at the community house. So when she retired from the community house, the city recognized her with a proclamation. But tonight, in her honor and her memory, if you would please join me in a moment of prayer and silence for Mary Lee Kowalczyk. Thank you. So moving on tonight, I think first up, do we have any public comment for items that are not on the agenda tonight? Good morning, Jana, or good afternoon, or good evening, Jana.
Yeah. Jana Yazek, 986 Churchill Circle, 204 South Main, 440 South Street. And I just came here because I want to give you an invitation to you, to the Planning Commission, and of course to administration, to come and see the Assistance League warehouse. And right now you have to have an appointment, so you'll have to call me, and I'm going to leave my cards with Leanne.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Please come and see us.
Yes. I know some council members have recently.
We have.
Yep. Any other public comment for things not on the agenda? Okay, great. Moving on, I think we have a presentation. I see Pat McKay at the ready. We're going to talk about the Van Hoosen farm and your annual report and all the amazing things that happen there. As you know, I was just walking through there this afternoon, saw the 3 new bridges, so lots happening.
I got pictures of them too, so thank you very much, Rochester City Council, for allowing me to come in here. I am here with 2 of our team members. Kathy Fitzpatrick handles the programming at the Rochester Museum, and all of our volunteers, about 7,000 to 10,000 hours a year. And then Dennis Andrews is our Deputy Director of the Rochester Parks and Natural Resources Department. Our museum falls within the Department of Parks and Natural Resources. I'm here tonight because we have a 3-year agreement with the City of Rochester, and I think I'll go through here. We are fortunate from November 23rd, 2023 through October 2026. We have an agreement for some financial support to operate the museum. And our agreement kind of goes through some of these things. You know, that we would provide historical programming and display and host significant events for the City of Rochester. Over the years, we just did Founders Day on March 17th, or around March 17th. I think we did your State of the City last year, and we do numerous programs. I'll talk about some of those as we go through here. We also use your funding to help support the museum. We do track out 60,000 people a year to our site. Our site is a park within our Parks and Natural Resources Department. We are working with developers on both the Granary and the Graham. Christy's going to nod her head on this. To do whatever we can to make sure those are successful projects in our community. Our selfish needs, and the reason why we love both of those projects is we do lots of programming downtown, and what both of those buildings allow us to do is have emergency places in case the weather turns on us or we need restroom facilities. Sometimes my audience is under the age of 10, and sometimes it's over the age of 60. So it's nice to have some places where we can escape sometimes too. And it's just we have lots to talk about as we do our tours through downtown Rochester. Kathy would tell you that, you know, every second grader in the Rochester Community Schools does a walking tour, and that starts like next week. So you're going to start seeing lots of kids downtown. And then we are working, I see members of the Rochester Avon Historical Society here too. We are working on the World War II monument right outside the door here, and working on some new interpretive signs that will go with that. So So there's lots of programs that we do and are our very best to support, the city of Rochester and all the history, our shared history, I guess, that we have. Coincidentally, our site is half in Rochester and half in Rochester Hills. You can kind of see the border. A lot of people always ask me where it is. Runyon Road is kind of the boundary, so you can see that. Our Van Hoosen Farmhouse and Red House closer to Tinkin Road, and the schoolhouse are all in Rochester Hills. And half the gazebo is in Rochester, half is in Rochester Hills. So depending on where you are standing says where you're going to get married, the city. So, and then our community timeline, you just kind of see how we are all tied together. The museum is celebrating this year, in March, our 46th year as a history museum, starting with just the Van Hoosen Farmhouse and then growing kind of exponentially over those last 46 years to encompass the Van Hoosen barn buildings. And then our latest acquisition was more than 10 years ago, was the schoolhouse, and a cooperation with Rochester Community Schools. These are the facilities that we have and that we share with our community. Our grounds are open to everybody, and it's 24 hours a day. We don't close our gates. We do allow people to walk their dogs late at night, and we don't know what everybody's schedules are, but we do try to make our site as accessible to everyone. Whether you're a dog walker or a fisherman or a nature lover, we do have a beautiful 16 acres there with Stony Creek Stream, bisecting our community. And these are the buildings. Our buildings are kept in what I want to consider exceptional condition, and we're very proud of them. The community seems to be passionate about them. We have very nosy neighbors, which we appreciate, and really don't deal with many problems. It's a beautiful site, and we're honored to share it. These are some of the programs that we do share. I know it's in small print, and that's kind of intentional because there's so many to talk about. So I don't know if Christy can see about 9 points down. It says very assistance for anything Christy Trevorrow asks us to support for the DDA. and that's kind of true for anything anybody from Rochester asks us. I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. I mean, if you ask us to help, we really pride ourselves in being collaborative and sharing everything that we have, and all of any kind of archival material, anything we have, signage that you see, information. I know we're happy to help. These are some of the archival materials that we have. And over the last few years, we've really made some heroic efforts trying to digitize everything and really put it online and really make them so that you don't have to have our assistance. If you would like to look up, information on weekends or on, late in the night, a lot of this material's there. We try to organize it as best we can. However, if there is any questions, you can call us, and we are happy to help. We're working with somebody who just bought an apartment building on Lysander Street, and they were asking for more information on the history of the property that they're on. But we do have 5,000 archival photographs, lots of diaries. Probably the most valuable thing we have is the last bullet point, is the Rochester era newspapers. We do have those digitized. They're all searchable PDF documents from 1872 to 1969. And we're in a cooperative program with the Rochester Public Library to make sure that stays on a platform that's free and searchable. We do have additional papers that are digitized up through 1969. We haven't got them all uploaded yet, so that's all. And our goal is to make everything as accessible as possible. Really are proud of that and making sure everybody has access to what we have. And these are a few projects that we're working on right now for this year. Over the last couple of years, we've done some really major facility investment. During COVID, I hate to reference back to COVID at all, because I was really like to put that behind us. But we did. It was a $2.5 million roof replacement while the world was kind of shut down. We replaced the entire roof structure on the dairy barn and rebuilt the equipment barn. So it was about $3.5 million of projects. Right now, we're working on the Gail Kemmler collection. As you know, Gail Kemmler was a Mary Kowalczyk who lived in our community. She died at 106 years old, and their family has donated her collection to us. You see, we have her wedding dress and newspaper articles about her, and so we are still processing that. Once it's done, we create finding aids, and then we'll put that collection online too. We're also working with the Birmingham Museum is working on a huge project right now that works on the Oakland County Underground Railroad. We're identifying businesses and people especially who really were abolitionists, who did their very best, and there are quite a few from Rochester, which is nice to hear, that there were people who really stood up. And there is a new traveling exhibit, and we will get that, I don't know, I think next year, next May, it's going to come here. There's a traveling exhibit, and I reached out to them saying, how do I buy my own? I mean, because it's so important. I think it's a story that should be permanently on display. These are, once again, I get to tell the story that, Rochester stepped up at a very troubling part, and especially as we talk about the America 250 next year as we celebrate our 250th anniversary as a country, to realize there are some challenges. You know, not everything was solved in 1776, and a lot of people did step up for it. We're also transcribing lots of letters. We did have lots of diaries, and they're difficult to read, but we are transcribing all of them and then putting those online. We get lots of questions on historic houses and historic buildings on Main Street. That comes up a lot. From an economic standpoint, it comes up because when a developer is looking at a piece of property, they want to make sure that they're buying a clean property, that there's no underground gas tanks or any kind of a risk of environmental contamination. So suddenly, the Museum Archival Records become very important as we try to help them identify the properties. And then we work with a lot of local businesses. We're working right now with the group on 3rd Street, where I was right behind the meeting house. The building that's going through some renovation right now is where the Rochester Era newspaper was published. And so we reached out to say, can we do some displays on the outside of the building to talk about the history of the building? They're doing really a remarkable looking renovation on that building. We're very excited about that because we use that quite a bit as part of our talks. Here's a few things that we're working on this year as our investments in the museum. As President Salvia said, we did replace 3 of our footbridges across our mill race behind the property, trying to make Stony Creek Stream a little more accessible and a little bit safer. We did add handrails now on all 3 bridges and strengthen them a little bit. A couple of them were, they needed to be replaced. They were 40 years old, so we just in the process of just finishing that right now. And those are, grass should be popping up here pretty quick here. We also are adding, just little things, new drinking fountains. Our drinking fountains, because we use our site 24 hours a day, dog walking seems to be a very popular site on our popular activity. So we do have a new drinking fountain that, in fact, is in the process of being replaced today. We're improving some of the audio and visual resources in our calf barn. Our calf barn gets used, last year we had 190 different rentals in that building. And so we're adding some additional drop-down screens, a little bit larger, a little more robust projectors and all that, trying to make it nice. We're also replacing all the lighting in the calf barn and trying to make that a little bit brighter. Our LED lighting over the last 15 years has started to dim quite significantly. And so the first generation of LED, we're paying the price right now and having to replace all those. And then our last project is something that's just kind of out there, and we're just going through some preliminary steps. It's looking at schematic designs for rebuilding the big barn. The big barn is the building in the center on the bottom. When it was built in 1872, the longest barn in Oakland County was built by Lysander Woodward up at Tinkin in Rochester. It was 100 feet long. When Joshua Van Hoosen came home from the California goldfields and built his 101 feet long, just to have bragging rights as farmers would do in the Rochester area. And that barn burned to the ground in 1968. And so we're going through a phase right now with an architectural firm out of Ann Arbor, just to say, what would it take if we put it on the same location? I have talked to Mr. Banda, who at least came out and just said, let's just start throwing off some, we got to talk about utilities and parking and neighbors and making sure that we're a good neighbor. We realize that we're very much embedded in a residential area. And most of the residents are across the street in Rochester Hills, but we're trying to really make sure we're a good neighbor and have to deal with traffic. And it's a beautiful and sensitive historic district, and we don't want to ruin it, but we are trying to tell the whole story, because what happened at the Van Hoosen farm in that little village of Stony Creek didn't happen anywhere else in the Midwest, if not the United States. We have a very unique story. So we are looking at that building. We are not looking at having any of the animals that you see in the picture. That would be kind of a year-round type building, heated and air-conditioned like most of our other ones, adaptively reused somehow. We're just trying to figure out, based on what we see long-term needs from archival storage to programming space, what would fit in. And once we're hoping to finish that up by late summer, early fall, and then we'll kind of see. It's whatever the price tag comes in is going to change things dramatically. Actually, one of our biggest issues right now is parking. Our paved parking lot can barely. We have 29 spots, and so we are parking our grass a little bit more than I think we should be, and we're trying to figure out a better system. We are very restricted in off-season when the ground is very wet or very snowy or icy. We really don't have a lot of good options out there, and we're trying to be a little bit more year-round there. So it's very exciting, though, to look at. This would be a major rebuild. If you can look at the size of that building, it is very large, and we'll see. It'll be exciting. We'll share that information once we have a chance to digest it a little bit. But the point of this is that we just finished our annual report. We are still on 2 agreements we still have with Michigan State University. The Van Hoosen farmhouse and the little red house that we have are both permanent gifts from Michigan State University that require us to do annual reports. It gives us a chance to document our own story, and as part of that, then we usually share that, and I have a copy of that in front of you for the city council members. For anybody else who needs it, we're happy to provide that. It's a chance to brag about some of the different kinds of projects that we do here, and just the little things you see. You know, this is our bike tour on the lower left that we do every year with Rochester Hills Public Library. It's in front of the Chapman House, and you can recognize right down the road. The second picture is the Mastodon bones when those were discovered on Adams Road. We have a couple of those on display right now. Our vintage baseball team is gearing up, and we do lots of exhibits. We're kind of a never-ending looking for what story's not being told, and finding different ways to brag about our town and why we're unique from every other town in pretty much Macomb and Oakland County. So I'm here to say thank you for your support and your financial support for the museum. A year from now, that 3-year contract will be coming up for expiration in the fall, and we'll be back and look at it again to see what works as the best partnership. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you, or pass it along and hear what Marilyn has to say about this microphone that she's thinking that she's going to do.
Yeah.
So is there any questions I can?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. You and the entire farm there is a tremendous resource to all of Rochester, and thank you for keeping our history alive and making it exciting and part of our everyday culture here. Council, any questions for him?
No.
No. Thank you.
All right, let me end this, and I'm going to get out of the way so Marilyn, I don't know where.
I am right there with that first video.
Is it this one right here?
It's that one right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you-
Yeah. So I'll introduce Councilmember Trent, who needs no introduction, but Councilmember Trent is here to educate us all on mini forests. We have a very exciting development coming, and so I'm happy to have this.
Go.
Where'd it go?
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yes, thank you.
This
Sorry.
education.
Well,
Take it away.
I appreciate the time that's been given to me. I'm going to keep it under 10 minutes, I promised. The purpose of this presentation is to provide the council and the community with an overview of the mini forest project. The philosophy that inspired it. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. And the dedicated members of our community who I have invited, who are helping me bring it to life. All right, so first I'm going to play this video. It's a few minutes long, but it gives a good overview of a mini forest project that was planted in Cambridge, Michigan, with quite a bit of good facts. So we won't listen to the whole thing. We'll stop it at 4. That's going to be us.
And we just dunk it all the way in, and see it's bubbling up right now. Really gross coffee. Like really gross coffee, exactly, like full of plant material.
This is Maya Dutta, and she's introducing a new kind of forest to Massachusetts.
Beautiful, and now...
It's called a Miyawaki forest, a dense, biodiverse plantation with only native tree species.
Welcome home.
The Miyawaki forest aims to recreate the natural forest of a given area prior to kind of massive deforestation and development.
Miyawaki forests were first introduced in Japan in the 1970s by ecologist Akira Miyawaki, and they aim to benefit not just humans, but the entire local ecosystem. What's more, they're designed to become self-sufficient 2 to 3 years after planting. The first Miyawaki forest Maya helped plant in Cambridge now looks like this 2 years after planting. The forest is designed to rapidly become a climax forest, an ecosystem that in nature could take hundreds of years to form.
In the past 5-10 years, there have been hundreds planted in different regions around the world. It's also great to have started the kind of branch of it here in the Northeast.
Maya's second Miyawaki forest project packs 900 plants into 1,400 square feet of land. The forest has some 50 native plant species, such as swamp white oak, groundsel tree, and quaking aspen.
I'll submerge them until all the air bubbles are gone.
The species are identified with the help of specialists and indigenous groups.
tamp it down lightly.
And these plants do much more than absorb carbon.
The idea is to create a high-functioning ecosystem of plants that are adapted to each other and to the local species nearby. Insects have evolved with certain plants over time. So once you lose that plant, then you lose that insect, and then you lose whatever eats that insect. So it's kind of a ripple effect in the ecosystem.
Biodiversity is a principle of how you create and sustain a healthy and flourishing planet. Making water available, clean air, habitable temperatures, the things that we all need to survive.
The saplings of a Miyawaki forest need to be planted in rich soil, like that of a mature forest. And that's hard to come by in urban lands. In this case, the soil underneath a public lawn was first loosened, then mixed with compost, biochar, and other materials, which jumpstarts the underground microbial life that provides nutrients to the plants.
Good stuff.
We plant those species that we've selected very densely to facilitate both the cooperative, dense, beautiful root network underground, and also to kind of foster some competition for upward growth.
This is Maya's first Miyawaki forest a year after planting. Once planted, the forest needs weeding and watering for 2 to 3 years. Then, as a dense canopy forms, nature takes over.
That canopy then shades out the weeds and holds the humidity in the system so that it doesn't need to be watered and it doesn't need to be maintained any way whatsoever.
At that point, they're doing that same process that we see in natural forests. Produce new growth, have that leaf drop down into the soil, have fungi decompose that. They can kind of stand on their own, so to speak.
We're making great progress. We've got a section done and mulched.
And that's the beauty of it. It's self-sustaining after 2 to 3 years. And so, here's our story. Slideshow.
I think you had it. Play from the beginning over to the left. Yep, right there.
Perfect, thank you. So ours is all about people pollinators and partners, and we are using the Miyawaki mini forest method. That's why I wanted everyone to see it. And I couldn't have done it without my community partners, and some of them are here today, and they comprise of the Rochester City Beautiful Commission, Rochester High School Green Schools Committee, 11 high school students will help us plant it, Daughters of the American Revolution, DPW Parks Department, DPW and the Parks Department, the Tree Committee, and Rochester Pollinators. We also have two grant-making partners, which were Rochester Community Foundation of Greater Rochester and the First State Bank Thanksgiving Grant Program. So thanks to Janine Krupp and her drone, we have a picture of where our mini forest is going to be. And on the top left corner, you can see that is our community garden before we plant our plants this year. It is 1,000 square feet, and it is just an ordinary plot, as you see here. So what happens is, as you saw, DPW, thank goodness, is preparing the soil, and we're going to have 30 local volunteers plant 290 trees and shrubs to mimic a natural forest with canopy layer, sub-canopy layer, and a shrub layer. And we're going to have mostly trees and shrubs that are native to Oakland County. Thusby, bur oak, white oak, and red oak, where we got our name, they will be planted there, and 95% of the trees are indigenous to Oakland County, including the understory trees. The shrubs, 100% will be from north, or we're indigenous to the county. So the benefits of a mini forest, I think you heard some of it. It cools the environment and mitigates urban heat islands. It's been tested in the Netherlands. It's like 10 or 20 degrees cooler in the forest that they've planted. They have 166 forests, and their plan was a mini forest in every neighborhood. It is a carbon sink. It sequesters carbon. It provides vital habitat for birds, and hopefully ours will support up to 1,500 pollinator species based on the combination of trees and plants and shrubs we'll have there. It improves soil health and water retention, and it soaks up more water than 90% more than turf grass. There are community benefits as well. It's going to be an educational tool for teachers, students, and visitors. It's a place to sit and relax and reflect eventually. And people will know, hopefully the people that were part of planning it will know that they were part of something lasting. And it will be 10 times faster in growth because it's planted 30 times denser than a natural forest. It's 100% more biodiverse and 100% organic. So hopefully our little forest could look like this in September. And there are two main ecological processes that help this forest grow 10 times as fast. And the first one we spoke about is that you plant these plants closer together and they compete for the sun above the ground, and then what happens below the ground is what I found very fascinating. So natural forests are vibrant ecosystems sustained by majestic large trees, particularly the wise mother trees. So those large circles are the central hub or mother trees that serve as the central hubs to feed and nurture the younger saplings. They do this through hidden mycorrhizal networks beneath the soil. They share nutrients, nurture young seedlings, and weave a web. It's also called the wood wide web, and I didn't make that up. I did not. It does strengthen the entire forest. So as these roots grow deeper and intertwine, they connect via the mycorrhizal fungi. These underground fungal networks exchange nutrients like sugar, nitrogen, phosphorus between trees and plants. They improve drought resistance by helping plants access water. They boost plant immunity by warning others of pests and diseases. They increase carbon sequestration as fungi store carbon in the soil. This network accelerates forest resilience and restores degraded land faster. This means that forests aren't just competing for resources, they are cooperating underground, ensuring their survival through cooperation and reciprocity. So we're going to plant a mother tree. It's through the City of Rochester's Tree Committee on April 22nd at 10 a.m. Everyone's invited. And we're also going to plant the forest on May 3rd, rain or shine. Bring your umbrellas and your raincoats if it rains. Unless it's like a huge rain. I guess obviously we're going to have to change the date. You will get to meet the volunteers. You can have some refreshments and snacks and enjoy the accomplishments with all of us. I just wanted to point out where it is. I didn't know if people understood. I don't know if this map helps, but it's on Woodward, where DPW is. It's behind the community garden. It's not that easy to find. If you want to know more, you can Google mini forest or microforest or pocket forest. It's more than just trees. It's a movement that supports pollinators and restores the balance to nature. It reminds us all that even small actions rooted in care and collaboration can lead to powerful change. We can learn a lot from forests through their cooperation and reciprocity. As my husband told me years ago, humans would still be living in caves if it wasn't for cooperation. And he's a historian, so he would know. It will be a place where children can learn, families can gather, and the entire community can witness the incredible transformation of a forest growing before their eyes on just 1,000 square feet. So it's my hope that there will be a mini forest in every city in Michigan, and a lot of people come and join us on May 3rd at 1 p.m. 2 p.m.
2 p.m., 2
Sorry.
p.m., or 9 a.m. to help plant.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes.
We have
Thank
the mayor
you.
helping us.
Yes, yes.
So we have my team here, a part of the team who is helping make this happen, and I couldn't do without them, and I would like to have a picture of us, so you guys who are part of that team.
What day was the Mother Tree?
April 22nd.
April 22nd is our Arbor Day and Earth Day celebration, where we will plant the mother tree, and then the rest of the mini forest will be planted on Saturday, May 3rd.
Or it could be known as the stepmother tree, as we know. We're producing this ourselves, you know, so it's kind of like a new modern forest.
All right. And so what picture did you want, Marilyn?
You and the team of us up here with my group.
Okay, but we don't have a tree or anything. Okay.
We've got, no. So Janine and Laura and Carrie Martin and Rachel Williams, City Beautiful Commission, a couple of my board members, DPW.
Council stand
People I
behind.
couldn't, because I didn't.
I think you're good.
No, you're great, Mayor. Yeah. You got this.
All right, come on, we got a big agenda, ladies, let's go.
Yeah.
Somebody taking a photo?
Hey, how are you?
Dr. Laura.
Dr. Laura.
Yeah, I don't want
Her husband's
Dr. Laura.
No, I don't want to be
You get your run in today?
photo bombing.
Say tree. Say many for us. Many for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. No photo bombs?
No, that's why. It shouldn't have been any good.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Trent. Really, your leadership, your innovation, your creativity. This is bringing something really special to Rochester. This really fits with us, and so I just want to thank City Administration and DPW in advance. I know it's a lot of work, but it is something that is pretty cool. It's a perfect location, and I think it's going to put us on the map in a very special way. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, so I guess we're going to get
All right, so I think we're moving on to our consent agenda. So we've got quite a few items on the consent agenda. Item A is our minutes from the regular meeting of March 10th and our regular meeting of March 24th. Item B is Arts and Apples, which is held traditionally the weekend after Labor Day, so September 5th through the 7th. Item C is consideration to approve Detroit POTS, P-O-T-S, 5K run/walk. That is a Sunday, September 28th. Item D is consideration to approve a new event, which will bring music to the Lions Shelter. These will be Thursdays starting June 12th. Item E is consideration to approve the 2025 Bark and Brew 5K event. This is Sunday, June 8th. That has a 9 a.m. start, and that's another great 5K through our downtown community. Item F is consideration to approve music in the park, which is done via the Kiwanis Club in the Municipal Park. These will start Thursday, June 19th, and go through July 31st. Item G is, I think this is also another new event, a Cinco de Mayo event. So that is 5/5 at DeMarco's, and that'll be held 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Council, anything on the consent agenda? Councilmember Trent.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about Art and Apples, the Art and Apples event. The cost, I wanted to discuss the cost a little bit. I know that, is this a proper time to do it, or?
So do you want to pull that item?
I'd
or-
like to pull it, because
Okay.
I think there's more,
Okay.
I would like to have more discussion about
Okay,
that. And
do
the
you
other
have any motion regarding the other items?
Yes, I would make a motion to keep A, C, D, E, and F, and G, and take out B to approve.
Okay, so you have a motion to approve all but item B, which you're pulling.
Yes.
I have a motion,
Support?
support by Hauser. City Clerk, the roll call, please.
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes. Thank you. So discussion on item B,
Yeah.
arts and apples.
Oh, yes. I know the history of the charges, the cross charges or charges that, of the event, Art and Apples. At one time, it was a free event. I mean, the Art and Apples or Paint Creek Center for the Arts didn't pay for the DPW or fire or police services. And then they began to pay for those services at, I don't know what year. But I was looking at the costs and I felt that it's fair to charge something. But I thought that it might be, a way to have a cap on it so that it would be would be shared because it is a partnership. And that was my discussion, that I think it's looking, I know they give 50% already, which is good, but I wanted to cap it at 5,000 instead of 7,600. That was my thoughts. Anybody want to talk about that?
So that's a discussion item. Is there any other council thoughts on that? Do we want to have a future agenda item regarding this, or how do we like to proceed?
It's actually 14,000, not, I don't know where she got the number from, so. Our three departments that are involved.
Oh, it's a total of 14,000 for Arts and Apples. So I think what really you're getting at is there's two, what I would call legacy events that happen in downtown Rochester.
Yeah.
We have Arts and Apples and we have the Hometown Christmas Parade. And when we moved our event schedule, those two were put in with the other events and followed the same structure. I would like to see us have some discussion regarding those two events. And whether it be a cap or some sort of sponsorship recognition for those events that can, I'll say, limit the cost exposure to those organizations that put on those legacy events. So I would like to have the discussion regarding those two events, but would hope we could get this one approved for tonight. Is that agreeable to council, or? Okay. So I then need a motion for item B.
So you're looking for a motion to approve the?
Yep.
Yes.
Arts and Apples.
Did you want to?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve Art and Apples.
Okay.
And then move the other discussion with the two legacy or Keystone events.
Okay.
To another time.
Okay, so approve Arts and Apples and have some discussion in the future regarding two legacy events. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Hauser.
What's the number? 5,000?
No, not.
We don't have any
Not
numbers.
going to.
14,000.
14.8.
The current cost is 14.8 for Arts and
So what are we
Apples.
voting on? I'm sorry.
We're voting to approve the event, and we're going to
Oh,
have
got
discussion
it.
later regarding
Thank you.
those two events.
Yeah.
Yep,
But without dollar amount.
without it.
We're simply approving that we will hold Art and Apples? So what is the motion, I guess?
Yeah,
I'm
the motion
confused.
is to approve the event, Arts and Apples, with future discussion regarding the two events and the cost charge structures to those two events.
Okay.
And again, to be clear, I would support that.
Okay.
The idea being, let's put it on the books, and then we can have a discussion about the cost for those two legacy
Yeah,
events.
and to be clear to council, so when we approve the costs, that is not necessarily what the entities pay. It depends upon the actual hours worked. Example, we recently had a big rainy Christmas parade, so we did not have as many people out there working. So it is weather dependent, so the entities get invoiced after the event for the actual costs. Okay. Any other discussion on this motion?
Just one more, one more thing. Yeah, I totally agree. I was wanting to have a larger discussion. I don't know where that would go, but that was my intent, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. City Clerk, the roll call, please.
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. So all the consent agenda passed. I did have some discussion. I don't know if the rah-rah people are here, if Katie's here. But we did have some discussion regarding the naming of the event, and I would just ask that you know, kind of do some follow-up on that. I just want to make sure there's no confusion with two music in the parks, and everyone goes to the right park for the right event. So, thank you. Okay, moving on to public hearings. So item A, we're now going to talk about bonding. So this is a public hearing for consideration of issuing tax-exempt 2025 capital improvement bonds totaling $2.61 million. These capital improvement bonds, the purpose of why we're bonding is for the community house and our Clinton River Trail. There's been lots of discussion on what is happening with the Clinton River Trail and the washout. I have asked administration to give council and the public an update at a future meeting, so I expect that will come probably early May. But today, bond council, let's talk about bonds.
Good evening. So again, the first item is the public hearing. So a component of the project to be financed with the bond proceeds is renovations to the community house, which is owned by the city, leased through Rochester Community House, Inc., which is a 501c3 corporation. So they operate the facility. And because you have a 501c3 operating a governmental building, the tax rules say you can issue bonds for that purpose, tax exempt, but you have to conduct a public hearing first on the city's issuance of bonds for the project. So notice was posted as part of on the city's website with respect to the public hearing. So the purpose here is just to have a public hearing, answer if there's any questions associated with the city issuing bonds for this purpose, and then we would come back after the hearing closes to actually consider the actual issuance of bonds.
Okay, thank you. So it's 7:41. I'm going to open the public hearing to issue bonds for the city of Rochester for use on the community house run by a 501c3. Is there anyone who would like to address the council regarding our public hearing? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 7:42. Thank you.
Great. You want me to come back for the bond resolution, which is the next item?
Yeah, come on back for the bond resolution. Let's keep it moving.
So now you have in front of you an actual resolution that authorizes the issuance of the bonds. So if you remember, the process gets started by council adopting a notice of intent, which was done earlier this year, publishing a notice in the paper indicating that the city intends on issuing bonds for this purpose. So this will be the final step, which is actually authorizing the issuance of the bonds. So you have in front of you a rather lengthy resolution, 17 pages, but about 14 of those pages are actually forms. So there's the form of the bond that's part of that resolution, and there's actually the form of the notice of sale that's part of that resolution. So just to highlight some of the key points of that resolution. So it authorizes the issuance of a series of capital improvement bonds in the amount not to exceed $2.61 million. Again, a portion of that project is for the community house. Then there's a portion also for Clinton River Trail and construction of the skate park. So the idea would be the bonds are secured by the limited tax pledge of the city. Even though the city can utilize any internal funds it wants to from an accounting perspective to pay back the bond proceeds, to the bondholder, the security is the limited tax pledge of the city. It also provides that the bonds will be sold pursuant to a competitive sale, which means that we would publish a notice in the Bond Buyer, which is a national publication that indicates the city would sell bonds on a particular date and receive bids on that date for the issuance of the bonds, for the purchase of the bonds. That's where that notice of sale comes into that's part of that resolution. That's the actual notice that we would publish in the Bond Buyer. It has a summary of all the important information that an investor needs with respect to the bonds. When principal and interest is paid, the security for the bonds, the tax-exempt status of the bonds, whether the bonds can be redeemed early, which they can. And then it also provides, it delegates to the city's authorized officers to actually award the bonds pursuant to those bids received. Because we're selecting a competitive sale, state law says that if you're going to award any of the bids, if you're going to accept any of the bids, you have to accept the lowest true interest cost. So let's just hypothetically say the local bank is second or third. If they're not the lowest true interest cost, we can't accept those bids without rejecting them all and then basically coming back and negotiating the sale of the bonds, which isn't currently authorized under the resolution, so we'd have to come back to council for that. So the idea is, we're gonna receive bids, whoever the lowest interest cost produces, those will be awarded to those. To the extent you accept any of them, you have to accept the lowest true interest cost. And that's pursuant to a sale order. Instead of lining up the sale of the bonds on a council date, because then you're really restricting when we can sell bonds, we delegate that authority within the parameters that are set out in the resolution. Finally, two final things in the resolution I wanted to point out. The city covenants to maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds. We're going through this whole process of making sure that, whatever refinance is being used in a tax exempt basis, which typically means we're using it for a governmental purpose. The community house is a 501c3, they're a tax exempt entity, so that also qualifies as a tax exempt use, as long as we designate that portion of the bonds as 501c3 bonds, which is the purpose of that public hearing, and then we'll have some designation in the tax documents. Finally, these bonds will be sold out to the market and there'll be an offering document prepared, a preliminary official statement it's called. That's a book that's prepared that talks about the front part, details the specifics of the bonds, kind of like the notice of sale. There's an appendix that is all the relevant financial information of the city. So if I know nothing about the city of Rochester, and I live somewhere out in, California, I can look at this book and have all the information I need to make an informed investment decision. So it's gonna detail what your tax base is, what your tax rates are, who are your major taxpayers. It's gonna have a copy of the city's audit in there. And the idea is when I buy those bonds, that has all the fresh information of the city that I need. But these bonds are gonna be outstanding for 20 years. So what's required by the market is that the city agrees, and this resolution provides that you can enter into what's called a continuing disclosure undertaking, which basically means that you're going to update certain financial information in that offering document annually. And then if there's certain events that take place, like the rating of the city changes, or some other events, what they call material events, you're gonna post a notice of that on a website called EMMA. It's basically the Electronic Municipal Market Access System. So if you're familiar with corporations, they have EDGAR, that's where they post all their 10Ks and 10Qs. EMMA is the municipal equivalent of EDGAR. And so all the information that, all these undertakings and things like that on the city's bonds, including all municipal bonds, is on this website called EMMA. So you can go on there and look at the city's existing outstanding debt, find out where it is, see what the undertakings are in connection with that. And the idea is if I buy these bonds 5 years later, I can get the original prospectus plus those annual updates, and I'll have an up-to-date document that I can then make an informed investment decision at that time to buy those bonds and what price I want to buy those bonds at in the secondary market. So the resolution authorizes all those things. And then the idea would be, if approved, we would move to actually publish the notice of sale on April 22nd, sell on April 29th, and the city would have bond proceeds in hand on May 20th. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. So this is a 20-year series of bonds. The longest maturity is 20 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And for, I'll say, council and the public's information, the rest of the funding for the community house is still expected to be coming from the state. Spoke with Senator Weber this morning. He is emphatic that it is coming, but I just really wanted to bring that back out to your awareness, as well as we still are short funding to redo the trail. So at this point in time, it does really appear that we do need these bonds to get these projects done. So council, any questions regarding the resolution? No? Councilmember King.
I have two questions. One, did the interest rate change from what we were previously discussing? I thought it was somewhere around like 4.5. I think it's showing 6% in here.
Max.
That's a maximum, right? So the idea is the expectation, we won't know the interest rate until we actually sell, right? So that's when all the bids will come in. Obviously, the market's a little bit up and down these days. But the idea will be, that's kind of the projected interest rate is somewhere in that 4.5%. It might be slightly higher. Again, we'll know when we get into the market, but it's not gonna be materially different. It's not gonna be anywhere near the 6%.
Okay.
From an average, what we really look at is the overall yield on the bonds, and it should be still in that 4 range.
Okay. And then, my second question is, as it relates to the, community house, do we have any update from them in terms of the bids for construction? Will they be able to do the work that was proposed within that budget?
So it just passed Planning Commission, was that Monday night? Last Monday night. And then we'll have working meetings starting next week.
Okay. Did they, I did watch that, but did they include the budget on there? The construction budget?
Nope.
Is that, okay, I didn't think so.
Coming soon. Council, any motions regarding issuance of the resolution that's in our packet?
I will make a motion to approve the procurement of a bond, or the public hearing for the bond for the 2.6 to fund the community house, the skate park, and the trail improvements.
And so this is a motion to approve the resolution that is in the
Correct.
packet to issue the bonds,
That's
20-year bonds.
That's correct.
Motion by Hauser,
I'll support.
support by Trent. Any other discussion, questions? City Clerk?
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live in the world of bonds on a day-to-day basis, and last week was the most incredible week regarding not just the stock market, but also the bond market. And who knows, rates could be lower by the time we issue these bonds. And it's like trying to time the market. You can't time the bond market. So let's hope we get some nice low interest rates.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to legislative deliberation. This is a housekeeping item. This is item A, consideration to approve a resolution for the approved principal shopping district. So this is the list of parcels that we discussed, and when we discussed and approved the assessment for the PSD. This is the bookkeeping so that we have all the parcels on the records. So we're looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the approved principal shopping district for PSD 2025-01.
Thank you. Counselor Trent. Support by Counselor Hauser. Questions?
Yeah, so we approved the 0-0, but contingent on that the situation wasn't going to change with the DDA.
So this is just regarding the
understand.
0-0 and the list of parcels.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
But obviously PSD didn't follow our direction. So do we talk about that before we approve?
So your question is regarding the PSD budget, correct?
Correct, but I mean, here, we're talking about their budget, but then.
No, this is the 0-0
Right,
and the list of parcels.
right, but the 0-0 was with strings, with direction, and the direction was not followed. Is that,
I guess I don't understand what you're saying, so.
I'm sure that
I mean, this is
come
a
to light
motion
when we
to,
talk about
The budget.
the two budgets.
right, we're going to talk about the budgets, but this is regarding the list of parcels that are having a 0 increase for this year and next year. Those parcels, do we agree with those parcels, and do we agree with 0-0? We agreed to 0-0, but we did not have the parcels in the packet. So since we had some property owners come forward saying they were disputing that, housekeeping, we want it crystal clear which exact parcels we're talking about. That is all this motion is regarding.
but I'll say again, the 0-0 was with direction that certain things would happen that don't appear to be happening.
That's in the
That's
next
my
one,
point.
isn't it?
Okay, I hear your point. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
So one last thing, so you're saying we're going to vote on this and then talk about it?
Well, we're going to talk about the PSD budget next.
Yeah, this is just the.
I mean, I heard your comment, but it's a
Wait, I
comment
think-
regarding the motion.
Maybe.
Yep, Counselor
Yeah.
Trent.
It's to just approve that each assessment for each property and the property is what that's what I did. Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Clarifying on the motion, we have a second. Any other discussion
do
on the
that.
motion? City Clerk, the roll call, please.
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right, moving on to reports and regular business. So item A is, again, in my opinion, a housekeeping item. This is consideration of a request to approve the use of legal counsel Elizabeth Young through Schultz and Young Law Firm, so she has changed law firms. Yes, Joellen.
Hi. Welcome, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I just got back from Florida. We landed at 5 o'clock.
Wow, impressive.
Miracle it wasn't delayed, but it's good weather both here and in Florida, so glad to be back though. So, yes, just with this, we were notified that they were, Keller Toma will no longer be providing the type of legal counsel that we get now. So we will, it's a continuity of services. So we're very happy with their services. Attorney Crott has looked over the new legal agreement. It kind of updates the old one. And it's just tonight the consideration to continue services through a different law firm, same people, just a different law firm. And then to have our city manager, Nick Banda, sign the agreement for continuation of services. No change in the amount or anything else.
Yeah, so no change in cost and service commitment.
Correct, yes, and they've been very good. We're very happy with them.
Great, thank you. Any questions, council? Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the use of legal counsel Elizabeth Young through her new firm, Schultz Young Law Firm, consistent with the recommendation and the documents that were included in our packet.
Motion by Hauser. Support by King. City Clerk, the roll call.
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes. Moving on to item C, which is the principal shopping, no, we're going to do B first. We're going to do B first. We're going to talk about the Downtown Development Authority budget first.
Good evening, council. Give us a second to get our tech fired up here.
We're in.
Oh, well, there we are.
I think our tech is flowing very smoothly tonight. I'm quite impressed. You even did a video. It was really nice.
Anthony's on top
Yes.
Finance director, summer duties is assigned. When you want your.
Anthony came in on Sunday to get it ready. Yes.
All right, and Stuart, I did ask Christie to put this in maize and blue for us. So.
Very good. Very good.
Good evening, council. Thank you for your time this evening. It's time for our.
It's purple. It's purple.
Is it purple? Well, you know, it's bluish. It's time for our annual visit to present our budget, kind of give a quick update as to what the DDA's been up to for the year, let the public know kind of what's going on, and so here we are. So I figured we start from the beginning for those folks that don't know what is the DDA. We all sort of envision it just sort of the downtown that puts on all the fun stuff, but it's way more than that. So the DDA itself was a creation of the City Council via the State Act PA 197 back in 1982. The council adopted an ordinance which formed the DDA, and the purpose of the DDA, this is directly from the ordinance, and the DDA foundational doc, really everything is on our website, but you can, I just pulled this directly from that. To correct, to prevent deterioration of the business district, to encourage historic preservation, to authorize the acquisition and disposal of interest in real property, to authorize the creation and implementation of a development plan of the district, to promote economic growth of the district, to create a board and prescribe its powers and duties, to authorize and levy collection of taxes, and to authorize, timely, issuance of bonds, although we don't do bonds, and also to the use of tax increment financing. So just wanted to kind of set the duck. So the DDA's been around since 1982. So the DDA is comprised of really a whole bunch of people that volunteer just countless hours. We can't thank them enough. So it includes business owners, property owners, residents, The liaison members from council, Chamber of Commerce, Principal Shopping District, and the Historical Commission. The DDA staff, there's 3 people on staff, the executive director, a marketing coordinator, and events coordinator. The DDA, again, is funded through tax increment financing, which is a capture of a portion of the assessed value of taxes in the district. And again, so this means a portion of the regular property taxes paid within the district are reinvested in the district annually. And it's always a good time to review the mission statement. I think it probably took months to come up with this thing. But, we'll get it below dust off of it. To maximize the economic development potential of downtown Rochester for the benefit of the community by maintaining an ongoing comprehensive downtown management program with broad-based community involvement, seeking reuse of historic and architecturally significant buildings whenever possible, respecting the natural environment, and by preserving the downtown's overall unique historical character. Given the agenda this evening here in council, I think we nailed pretty much all of those, which is fantastic. So for me, this is the most important part. Who is the DDA? Who are the faces, right? So I just want to take a moment to thank some folks. So myself, who cares, but the res means I'm just a resident, so I'm on here as a resident, and so I have no stake in the district other than I live here and I want it to be great. Tony LaPuma, our vice chair, is a property owner and a business owner of the district. Tanya Karsten, our secretary, is a business owner. Bob Bloomingdale is a property owner. Eric Diana is a resident. Bob Timasso is here this evening, is our chamber liaison. He's also a property owner, a business owner, and a resident. Lisa Germani Williams, resident. Paul Haig, our PSD liaison, is a property owner, business owner, and resident. Roger Knapp, Roger's been around forever and ever, but he is a property owner, business owner, and resident. We're grateful for his service. Mayor Salvia, by the nature of her position, is on as a resident. Don Sinkowitz is a resident, our historical commission liaison, and councilperson Trent is a business owner and resident of the district. So I just want to take a moment to thank all these people for your time, energy, effort, and life force to the DDA. We couldn't do it without you. So, you want to jump into the Main Street stuff? Sure. Since this is your thing.
My world, here we go. So we are a part of Main Street Oakland County. They are the first countywide program for Main Street, and they maintain that they are still the only countywide program in the country, mainly because Oakland County is as big as some states. We were the first committee selected to be a part of Main Street County back in 2000. Alongside Walled Lake and Royal Oak. Walled Lake has since fallen out. Royal Oak was in, then out, and now back in again. So we're the OG, if you will, of Main Street Oakland County. Nice. The DDA, I know you're all familiar with this, we use the 4-point approach as a guiding set of principles from Main Street America, which is a division of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The 4-point approach includes design, organization, promotion, and economic vitality, or as we refer to it here, business development. We have a standing committee assigned to execute each task of the 4 points, and we have several subcommittees rolling at any given time. And we are proud to say that, including this year, we have now been a nationally accredited Main Street community for the past 20 years. So we were named a Great American Main Street Award recipient by Main Street America in 2013. The Great American Main Street Award began in 1995. The Main Street Award celebrates communities whose successes serve as a model for comprehensive preservation-based revitalization efforts in the historic downtowns and commercial corridor districts. Of over 2,000 eligible Main Street America communities, only 115 have been named a Great American Main Street Award community, and we are super proud that Rochester received that designation in 2013. Want me to turn back to key dates?
Sure. All right. This is the proverbial tag team here. So it's just sort of some key dates in the DDA history. It's kind of fun to take a walk down memory lane. So in 1982 it was formed. In 1990 was the first amendment to the development plan. Under the act, you have to have a physical plan as to what you're doing with the tax captured money. So the council amended that plan. Again, that documentation exists on the DDA's website. In 1995, the boundary of the DDA was expanded to add Water Street and the Western Knitting Mill property. And in 96, it was expanded to add the area south of East 3rd, including First and Mill, down to the end of the South Bridge. And then in 2001, it was the last legislative act for the TIF, the DDA to exist, and our shot clock is running. We expire on December 31st, 2030. In terms of the capital investments this year that have been made in the district, 38 light poles, which we're kind of freaking out a little bit about tariffs, but we'll see how that goes. Reconstruction of the 200 block parking lot approach. Catch basin repair at the 200 block parking, West 200 block parking lot. Painted the electric boxes because, ongoing, can't legislate morality. We've got graffiti issues. Biz dev, you want to do the biz dev?
Yeah.
This is yours.
So Ben has shared with me our friends in Birmingham do an annual report where they get statistics, and they were kind of some fun statistics, so I decided to pull out some of our own. So we currently have 400 plus businesses. 95% of them are locally owned and operated, which we think is pretty great. In confirming with City Manager Banda, our total downtown occupancy rate between both retail and office is 98%. Our private sector investment, this is a number that we are obligated to turn to Mason-Oakland County every year, is a part of our quarterly stats. This comes from the building department, $2.8 million in private sector investment last year in Rochester, which we think is pretty great. New businesses and expansions, even though we do have an occupancy rate of 98%, we do see some movements. So we had 10 new businesses call Rochester home last year and 4 business expansions, which shows that people are continuing to reinvest here in Rochester. Marketing and advertising, personal favorite of mine, 1.5 million social media views across all of our downtown social media platforms. We are just shy of 100,000 social media followers. Trust me, I tracked every single one we had. That's the closest I could get. I was trying so hard. Of our number of website views, we went to the service part of the site, 439 views last year from 97 different countries, which I think is pretty incredible to see the people that are looking to see what's happening here in Rochester and hopefully planning a visit. 6 million plus visitors to the district, and a 116-minute average dwell time. Both of those statistics come from our friends at Mason-Oakland County. There is a wonderful platform called Placer AI. I know that we used it for the Almond Ross St. Brown cake to get some statistics from Mayor Salvia when she was doing that award with Heather Toko, owner of Home Bakery. And I've got some more stats from that as well, and when we get to the next slide. In terms of events and promotions, last year we had 89 special event days, 209 promotional days, and our revenue from sponsors, advertising, and vendor fees was $272,300. So here's some fun ones. Again, sources are funds at Placer AI. Big Bright Light Show. We talk a lot about the impact of that. Obviously, it is a high dollar item for us, but we feel that the results speak for themselves. Last year, we had 1.4 million visitors that came to Rochester to see the lights, and average dwell time of 118 minutes. I know that we do hear on occasion people say, well, people just drive through. Well, either they're driving super slow, or it's taking them a really long time because they just hopped out to get that selfie, or they're actually coming, staying, spending some time, which is what we hear from the businesses, because continually the businesses tell us that they do 30 to 40% of their annual revenue during the days that the show is aglow. And visit frequency during the light show, visitors come and see us at least 2 times. Visitor comparison to shopping destinations in the trade area in the same period. So of course we have 1.4 million, but when you look at that through the lens of what our immediate competitors might be offering, Somerset Collection, 206,000 visitors during the same time period. Our friends up the road in the village of Rochester Hills, 157,900. Great Lakes Crossing, 155,000 visitors, and Mall at Partridge Creek, 100,000 visitors. So that gives you some perspective. While it's easy for me to stand up here and say 1.4 million, it doesn't mean anything if we don't benchmark it against other things. And so we thought that this was a pretty powerful statistic.
That's awesome.
I was excited to share with you, and I'm going to turn things over to Ben.
Sure. Since the 900-pound elephant is in the room, a quick update on the Graham as to where it's going. So as was alluded to earlier, actually we were on the same planning commission agenda as the community house. Ellen went first and we went second. So I sent them in the packet you got this evening is our budget along with the memo, and I've been trying to keep you guys sort of updated. As this thing goes on, I think that we can all. But during the demolition in December, it was discovered there was significant structural issues along the wall with where the roll-up doors are there, and then on the other side, and then part of the facade was failing. So we kind of, you never know what you know until you start opening up walls. So of course, we kind of went through how much is it going to cost. I felt like Tom Hanks and Shelley Long at the, it's like 2 weeks, right? So we came back with a budget, so we had to go back and re-engineer the whole thing. And in discussions, talking about the brick wall along the side of the bank and the problem with trying to do the shade structure that was over there and being mindful of everyone's, concern about parking. We wanted to make sure that we weren't, doing anything there to take away that parking during the week. So it was like, hey, all right, well, we got to do this stuff anyway. What about moving the shade structure back over and reattach it to the building? And that would cause some shade, allow some cooling factors of the business. And I don't know, last time you've been to Eastern Market, but it's like attached to the building. That's one of the super cool, especially during like, Flower Day, going down there and being underneath those structures. So anyway, we tried to mimic that. So we scooched that back over and also put a structure over the front there. There's if you remember, there was a patio there that was in the plans. That was actually original from the Eisenbrauns when they were gonna do the brewery there. We just sort of copied it, but it was sort of open. So we said, all right, well, let's go ahead and put a shade structure there as well to kind of give it more footprint and more ambiance and kind of make it look like it's been there for a while, and the addition of the Tivoli lights and that sort of thing. So we went before our planning commission because we had a structural change with the siding, and then with the two ads. This didn't really change at all. The only thing that's different here is the new look of the thing, which everybody was super excited about. Oh, there you go. That's a much better picture. So that'll be fun when the doors open, and you can envision either tables there or during farmers market, people selling their wares or whatever. It's just the one thing that was super exciting, I think everybody was pretty fired up about, was it allowed us to change the side of the building. It was kind of, it was sort of an afterthought, so we were able to spend a little bit of time on it, and you never know how long a meeting can take until you decide how many square windows you gotta have on one side of a building, but we were able to arrive at this. The brick is kind of following the contour, so we were able to save some money. The siding is steel, so it's not, it's the brick halfway up and then sort of structural steel, I don't know, barn steel, I don't know what it is. I got it on my barn up north, so it's the same thing. It's a steel siding. So it's not super expensive, but that whole lower facade was falling apart. And then we also enclosed the dumpster area here to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So that was sort of that. So a quick update on project timeline. There was some confusion last time we were before council with respect to the time, so I want to make sure that we're all sort of dialed in on that. So we were running concurrently until planning commission approved this design. We really couldn't do anything. So we tasked our construction manager, Sean Rewald at Rewald Construction, go ahead and put the bid pack together, presuming planning commission approves this change in site plan, which they did. The only caveat is as part of the awning in the front just barely goes, we're encroaching on ourselves again, so we have to go before before ZBA to see if we're okay in that regard. Fingers crossed. But so right now, we've gone ahead and we're putting together the packs that they're being assembled today. In fact, I was going through about 20 emails today, just kind of getting all that sort of dialed in. It's the sausage making part of making sausage, but it's going to go out for bid now that we've gotten the approval from Planning Commission. So I think end of this week, hopefully. The goal is end of this week to get the bid packs out and have guys respond as quickly as possible. So Sean's fairly confident we'll get the bids back by the end of April. That's the end of this month. Award the project in early May, so we'll have a quick turnaround. So the nice thing about this is while we've got a placeholder in the budget, yes, the project did increase in price, as I indicated in my memo, just, Murphy's Law, right? But we don't know what the exact dollar amounts. The beauty of this is we're gonna know exact dollar amounts before you actually vote on the budget. So we'll have that for you, and to the extent that an amendment needs to be made or any kind of, horse trading, it'll be plenty of time before that. So we should have that back early May. And then groundbreaking. So the goal here is shovels and dirt after Mother's Day. Substantially complete before Lanya. So the mayor will be ringing in the new year at the Graham with Mr. and Mrs. Claus and the whole.
And Dan Campbell.
And Dan Campbell, yes. We'll see. See what we can do on that one, right?
Just point it out there.
Yeah. So we're going to try and get as much of it done as we can, and we'll go through the budget in a second. So the way I kind of parsed it out is I figured most of the work would happen in this budget cycle and anything sort of carrying over to the next. So it's possible we may come back to move some stuff from one way to the other, but I've been told 2.8 to 3 is the number, so that's kind of what I was working with in the budget. We'll get to that in a sec here. So, all right, on to budget discussion. So if I go like this, and I go like this, and I go like this. So what I wanted to show here, Oopsie daisy, not that. All right, so the big thing is that, so the revenue for the DDA this year in our budget that we'll talk about in just a second is $2,879,882. I figured, all right, well, let's take a look and see where all of that money is coming from, right? So just under half, 49%, is coming from the City of Rochester property tax capture. So again, through the TIF, a line in the sand was drawn in 1982. All of the value in 1982 and before goes to the general fund. All of the value from 1983 forward goes to the DDA as part of the TIF capture. So I think about 85% or 80% of, it's like 80-20 is the number sticking in my head in terms of the value of all the property in the district. 20 goes to the general fund, 80 goes to the TIF in that area. But in the total DDA budget, because of all the other funding that we got along with the other captures, it represents about 49% of the total revenue, at least this year. Let's see, what is HCMA? I don't even know what that is. The second largest contributor to the DDA, aside from giving us $1 million to build a building, is the county. Through capture, 15% of our budget comes from the county. 11% of our budget comes from grants and other functions of the grant process. Oakland Community College, the tax capture from Oakland Community College accounts for 6% of our budget. Also 6% is coming from fundraising and event activities. We get a 4% capture from the Regional Transit Authority, which is the bus issue. We get some revenue from cross-charge billbacks, so this would be other departments utilizing DDA services. We get 2% of our budget comes from the county parks, 2% interest, 1% from the OPC operating budget, and then whatever HCMA is. Anthony? Oh, Huron, Clinton, Metro. Okay, gotcha. I have no idea. And then I left the $1,100 of other out, just FYI. So I just thought it was interesting to kind of see, all right, well, you guys are spending $2.9 million. Where's it all coming from? So less than half of it actually comes from Rochester. The other is just coming from us being a TIF, and we're able to capture all these tax dollars that we would not have if not for the TIF. So in your packet is the budget itself. Nothing really earth-shaking, although as we've discussed before, we have pulled, since the DDA is going to be undertaking all of the operations within the GRAM, we took back the stuff that was run by PSD before. So the PSD did Farmers Market and Big Bright, so we pulled all of that back. So all of the revenue and all of the costs now appear in the DDA budget. And then the other thing, really, other than that, the only major issue was, let's see here, let me get down to the big one here. So Farmers Market, so I've got 2.3 plugged in for this fiscal year for budget, and then 450 in 26, 27. Again, we don't know until we know, so these are just placeholders, but we will know within the next few weeks what that really looks like. I'm told this is good directionally. This land contract number down here is our monthly debt, or our annual debt service to purchase the property. We did not bond that, but we did borrow $1 million from Chief Financial Credit Union to purchase the building. As part of our process, we want to make sure that we're undertaking, this is a big swing, right? Everybody agrees this is a big swing. But we also want to make sure this big swing is not at the cost of other things that we're trying to do within the district, right? So asked to make sure that, what does it look like 3 years out for the transfers to the street fund? And this is coming from administration, and they said these numbers are solid. We're still have a placeholder in here for $325 a year going to the parking fund, which I understand is in really good shape now. But for purposes of this budget exercise, we want to just continue that on. And then also too, part of this exercise, and I know this is super tiny, so I apologize if I can make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So I asked Chris, yes, all right, well, the GRAM's coming online, excuse me. Just take a swag at what activation revenue and what that might look like going forward. So we were super conservative. So my goal here was two. Number one, to challenge the staff to come up with a number for me. And number two, to show that we're not intending to compete with any businesses in the district. This building exists as a monument, if you will, to the citizens and the stakeholders in our community. So we wanted to have it be precisely that. So we're not doing anything that would be deemed competitive. at least in my estimation, and these are just sort of laid out by year. But again, we're taking the farmer's market. Now, this includes us bringing in inside spaces that we don't have at present, right? So that's additional revenue that's not there today. Third Thursdays, Halloween Makers events. This is now, we're gonna be able to have something inside the building and not bothering the fire department. Chief John's been awesome over the years, but there's a fundamental difference between trying to have little kids run around and having an operating fire department and responding to calls. So not that we don't love them, right next door, we can just go over there and visit. So anyway, so that's their fancy flea market, just ideas, a themed dinner series. We would do an annual fundraising event for the Graham Slam. I thought this was awesome. So this would be sort of a food festival type thing, and probably, hopefully sooner than that, but in the 27, 28 year. Maybe some cooking classes, and then the expenditures related therein. So basically, in this budget, we've got, because it's not coming online until November, so you got about a half a year, and we don't know what's going to happen. So you get 24,000 of net income, if you will, in this budget. 78. 950 in 26, 27, and 100 grand in 27, 28. So again, this is just conservative, what if kind of stuff to give you a feel for that. So, so we talked about the revenue, $2.8 million, 2,879, of which we know that about a little less than half comes from the city. Everything else comes from the other things that I had noted. The other expenses, so there was a lot, and this was a subject of conversation earlier on council about the movement of staff. So currently at present, the director is on the DEA payroll, and the promotion staff, which are the promotions and the, what am I missing? Events and marketing. Sorry, I was having a senior moment. It's aging. I'm not proud of it.
You just had a birthday.
I need more ginkgo. But anyway, so those folks are on the PSD staff, and through the use of what's called a cross charge, every department, we get finance, we get city manager, we get DPW, everybody kind of, it's just putting the right pieces in the right place. Excuse me. So as you just looked at the Graham activations, now at present, about 23% of the directors' wages are charged to the PSD, and about 29% of the promotion staff is charged to the DDA for their use. So, I think you deserve that. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate you. I was going to bring some Cabernet, but I didn't know how to roll.
Later.
Excellent. Thanks. Yeah, I was probably short-sighted. Nick, I should have brought one, but that's all right. Didn't want to get accused or anything. So with respect to the staff, now that we're moving Big Bright and the farmers market activities and all the stuff that was related there back to the DDA, it was worthwhile for us to revisit the amount that we pay for each other. So in the city, I asked, all right, so what's the city's policy with respect to cross-charge, and how does that work out? And you're supposed to review, according to what the memo that I read said, you're supposed to review the actual efforts of whoever is being charged back, and then arrive at a reasonable number for that based on it. It's reviewed on a year-by-year basis. So I was like, all right, well, we're moving all these people, so let's take a peek at that. So there was our intent, and we'll get to this in a second. So the PSD budget that was passed by council's last meeting, so this has already been done, it would have resulted, and these numbers are coming from the finance department, these are not Ben's numbers, just FYI. It resulted in a $68,000 loss for 25, 26, assuming no other changes, and a $100,000 loss for 26, 27. So while a bummer, right? But we're moving things back and forth to right-size the ship anyway, because we're moving projects from PSD to DDA just because of the grant. If not for the grant, we would not be having this discussion. Well, you might have to have it, but for us at DDA, it wouldn't have mattered. But I was asked to put together, all right, well, what does this all look like, moving these parts back and forth? So you're moving the sponsorship, you're moving ins and outs and blah, blah, blah. So the proposal that we came up with at DDA was, all right, well, Christie's only getting charged 23% let's make it 33% because a third of her time easily is being spent on PSD. So that justifies an increase there to the PSD. And then conversely, we're going to go from 29% to 50% on the promotion staff. So picking up, a small part of their time, but that's because the farmer's market, which all of the stuff that they do is largely done with that. So this, in the DDA's estimation, was making it fair as to the usage of staff and to the usage of cost, given the fact that we're, with the grant coming online, we're doing all this, and the budget doc required us to go through this process anyway. So the net result to the PSD was it takes them from a $68,000 loss to a $36,000 plus for 25-26, and then $21,000 for 26-27. Now, while that doesn't seem like a great deal of money, it's more than a loss, right? But also not reflected in here is tax tribunals. So there's a lot of, you guys heard during the public hearing, there was a lot of people not happy about it. So there's always going to be some sort of loss set aside there. So to the extent that number is negative or close to zero, you're putting yourself in a position where you may run into an issue given how tribunal works. And again, that's just going to be something that the attorneys get to work out. But that said, there was some debate on council after the fact as to not moving the personnel staff. I'm like, all right, well, we're moving Big Bright in the farmer's market, so let's just leave, we're moving Big Bright, let's just leave everything else there. So Big Bright is just Big Bright and Festival of Trees. This is all the pink that you see there. This is us not moving anything else. I'm like, all right, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about $20,000 to the DDA budget. So after all those machinations of making Christie pay, making the PSD pay more for Christie than they are paying today, and then us paying, DDA paying a little bit more for the promotion staff, and moving all that other activity back and forth, it's $20,553 to our budget in 24, and then forecasted 24 grand for the next fiscal year. So, it's not nothing, but in a $3 million budget, it's not a ton of money. So, our inclination is just following the guidance of the city budget, which says they're supposed to review the cross charges every year. And we felt 50-50 for the promote staff, given the fact how much work they were going to be doing for us was legit. So that was, the thought process on that. I just want to walk you guys through that so we were all on the same page. And then just for sake of discussion, this was in your budget also. So we're at 2.8 to 3 million. We were at about just a little under 2.4 when we were before you last, not quite a year ago, almost a year ago. So what's the old saying? It always costs twice as much and takes twice as long, but that's certainly not the case here. We're very close. We feel the 2.8 to 3.0 is a good number. Given the slowdown a little bit, we're hopeful that it actually will come in cheaper than that. But fingers crossed. You never know until you know, and we're going to know in a few weeks. So really, with that, is there anything else we had here? I think that's it, eh? Oh, I don't know. What's the next one? Anyway, I think the next one says questions, so.
Okay, so I think that's excellent. That's a lot of detail, a lot of information. I think it's really important that council and the public realize that all of those numbers, while we know you're a bean counter and a CPA and this is your world and you live in it, all of these numbers came from the finance team, Anthony and Marcy. I have had more conversation regarding the DDA budget and the PSD budget than any other item in my city council career. So it's important to know that those numbers came from them. Anthony and Marcy, I would like, this is a bit of an audible, but I would like you to speak a bit to the cross-charge procedure that is in our council packet, because it sounds like there's some questions around that. To me, this is very similar to what we went through with the general fund budget, where we had some discussions around our general fund budget, where are we at, and then we went through the cross-charge procedure. So very similar. This part of our budget, the DDA, PSD, is, in my opinion, probably the most complicated part of our budget. We've got 3 different boards. We've got the DDA board, the PSD board, and the city council board. And so all 3 pieces have to come together tonight. This is the moment. So if you could tell us a bit more about the cross-charge, and I don't know if we want to have that page up on the screen.
I'll scroll to the bottom.
It's page 126 in our packet?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Okay.
Oh, you want to-
Oh, no, you want the actual.
The actual, our city procedure, what we use across the board for everything.
The memo. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it really wasn't audible.
Had a text report.
You know, I'll just talk while I'm doing this.
Yep.
So, the city has a policy and has for a number of years on reviewing annually the cross charges and making sure that the time spent is properly allocated to where the duties correspond. So for instance, if we have a lot of water projects coming up, like North Main Street is gonna be coming up in the next couple of years, time's gonna be shifted from, say, roads to water, because that's where staff is spending the time. And we look at that annually, and even this year, as Mayor pointed out, that was a topic of discussion to actually set aside a special meeting on this next upcoming budget year specifically.
It's 126.
Thank you, I am like super close now to this. 120, here we go.
There it is.
To where we will have a special breakout session on it. So this is reviewed administratively on time and place and where the anticipated, because this is the budget coming up. So we look at what is coming up in the next year, what's changed, where should people be allocated, and then we adjust those percentages as needed each year. This is the actual policy itself that council adopts each year. So we look at definitions for the cross-charge, setting up the different departments, looking at how they actually function across each of the different cost buckets. So for instance, we have general fund. There's no cost on any of these people here because they're already charged to general fund. So these are all zeros. Then as they spend time and planning projects and moving in these other buckets, whether it's major streets, local streets, cemetery, water sewer, PSD, DDA, auto parking, revolving equipment, that's where we look and make changes to it. And that is the annual, basically in a nutshell, the annual review of it. As Ben mentioned, there are fundamental changes in who is handling what. So there's definitely an inconvenience of timing on the gram with the assessment to where it may look, as mentioned before, as kind of like a shell game or a shuffle. But should the gram have happened last year, we would be having these exact same discussions. Or next year, we'd be having the same discussions. Because each year, we want to make sure that the charges are fair, that they make sense, and that they're charged to where they need to be charged to. So in this case, this is leaving promotion staff in the PSD as was directed, and then as talked about, the charges for with farmers market moving, with all those things that Ben just mentioned, that shifting really from 29% to 50%. So there's really a 21% change, and that's for the farmers market. Though that's for all of those items. That's the difference between the prior year and this year. And with that, any other pieces I missed or you want me to touch on?
No, I think that was good. I just really wanted you to speak
Kind of
to
a high level
the
on-
process, and I think Marcy made the recommendation for next year's budget, that this cross-charge procedure, we're going to pull that up in our discussions and our workshops, because it seems like has been a bit of a sticking point at a couple times in this year's budget. So continuous improvement, we can always make things better.
Oh, absolutely, and that is exactly what we did. So instead of having a group with the other policies, it will be its own session on it. Because it is very important that we get this aligned correctly and fairly so that it's equitable and it matches where the work is anticipated to be spent.
Yep.
The table alone is very complicated, just to go through the table itself. So a full session on this one we think is appropriate for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for both of yours hard work on this. So because these two budgets are so intertwined, the DDA and the PSD, I guess I would like, as a matter of order, maybe take council questions regarding the DDA budget, and then maybe we bring the PSD budget up. Does that sound like an agreeable process? Okay. All right. So questions from council regarding the DDA budget? No questions? All right, so my comments on
I have
it
one.
are that, I'll just make my comment and then I'll let you talk. It hits on the key points I was looking for. We're funding the biggest capital project in the DDA, I think you said ever. That's a big deal. We're still funding parking. We're still funding all the other capital improvements, light poles, streets, everything. We've got our costs where they're actually occurring.
We're paying for 37% of the city manager.
And the city manager. So to me, it hit on everything that I was looking for. Councilmember Sage.
So I can understand the Graham, right? I mean, the DDA is making a substantial investment in that, and so I understand that reallocation. Walk me through the big bright light decision. That's my only question.
Sure. So the whole rationale is getting, the whole idea of the 200 grant, so prior to this year, it was $200,000 that the DEA kicked in to Big Bright Light. And then the PSD kept all the fundraising revenue from the Festival of Trees and all the other stuff, right? So the idea is that there's the two major events that are happening within the district are that, and then the Graham. So we wanted to bring all of that back under one umbrella. And we just used this opportunity in terms of having the Graham come online to kind of go back and sort of level set the work that happens with the DDA. The DDA and the PSD are two separate and distinct boards. You guys know that, right? But unfortunately, whether we like it or not, there's a lot of cross-pollination that happens there. So we're just trying to make it so it's fair and equitable in terms of the stuff that's going on within the district, in terms of promotion. I think I sent in your packet this year, because of the grant, we're like 127% capital this year. But in typical years, we're about 70-30, 65-35 capital to operations. But then if you look at that pie chart that I just showed you, in effect, our operations cost is paid for by others not in the district, right? So not paid for by Rochester. I mean, you can view it that way. So the long answer to your short question is we're using this opportunity to bring the two keystone projects that are going to happen within the district back under the roof. And in talking with others, that it seemed like that this was is a perfect time. And to the finance director's point and to Marcy's point, we're going to review this every year too. If we go through the Graham and we decide that we're not using that much of the staff of PSD and vice versa, this is not just DEA. This really should be everybody, right? And then these costs, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're fully loaded, so it includes pension and benefits and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So-
The other thing I'll add, Councilmember Sage, is I think we asked for it. Council asked for that to move back.
Okay. So I just remember, because you were part of it, Ben, we separated the two entities, right? Because we wanted each to stand on its own and have the same fiscal responsibility the council has to balance a budget. So I get the sense that we're trying to combine the two entities again. And we're just moving money around. So
I'm sorry.
that's my only concern.
Gotcha. So there was discussion that was not started by me about sort of talking about that concept, and it was clear that it wasn't going to go anywhere, because the idea back in the day was, again, the PSD is an assessment on property owners in the district, not related to property value, right? So within the last, 4 years, if you do compounded inflation, it's near 21%. It's like 20.77. The night that we were before council last time, the assessor was here. So I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. But so the DDA and the city are protected from these inflationary pressures because our budgets are based on the inflated, value of the properties. PSD not. It's just, you get what you get. And as you saw, the zero for them, and again, I'm not on the PSD board, I'm just speaking as an advocate for somebody who's a stakeholder in it, as a resident of this community. That fine, understood, but it created a loss. And again, if not for this exercise with the Graham, I hate to say it's not my problem, but it really wouldn't be my problem, because I'm not doing this because of them. We're not doing this because of what's going on at PSD. It just happened to work out. So the Lord working in mysterious ways, that's fine, however you want to look at it. But from our perspective, the two boards are separate. There is clearly, separate governance, separate budget, all that goes on, and I really don't have much to do with it, other than the shared.
Okay, and I understand all that. So when we have a shortfall, we're held accountable to fill that shortfall. I guess I'm missing the part where maybe the PSD said, well, maybe there's something we could adjust within our budget. We're just making it right?
Yeah, no, fair
We're
point, but
boxing
yeah,
everything.
no, fair point. But again, if not for us moving all the activity over to the Graham, then you and I would not be having this discussion at all right now. They would have to figure it out, right? I think there would have been, I can't speak to what the PSD is going to do. I just know that our residents and stakeholders in this community have an expectation of things being a certain way and the key events every year and everything sort of happening. So this, again, timing only. Just if not for the grant, we would not be having this discussion. But for that, we're able to give them just a skosh of breathing room. And if they go through tribunal and they lose that 20 grand, I mean, they'll have to figure it out. But then it becomes a totally separate discussion that you can have with respect to the events and the value there. And again, the PSD is a separate board. They have publicly held meetings. All of their minutes happen to be located on the DDA's website. You can pull them down and look at that. There was some debate last time as to secret meetings and all this other sort of nonsense, which just simply is not true. But again, the PSD is funded direct by an assessment on the property owners in the district based on their location and the floor that they're on. It's not unlike the CAM advertising charges that the village of Rochester Hills or Somerset or whoever else places on, for advertising and promotion of their businesses. So again, if not for us in the Graham, we would not be having this major discussion. So, but every year it needs to go on, and we'll certainly do it next year.
Councilmember Trent?
Yeah, I was just, I had a question about the cross-charge revisiting it every year, because my understanding this is a 2-year approval. I mean, you're saying that for the cross.
Not for us.
But for the PSD, it's not.
So just so I understand.
That's what I thought. PSD assessment is a 2-year approval.
Correct.
Right.
You guys already passed that last.
But the cross-charge would be, the DDA is yearly, so
Correct.
we're talking about the DDA. Okay, just confirming that the next year, you might say, oh, it's 40/60, or it's, I don't know, more 55/45,
Yeah,
something like that.
No
Okay.
idea, right?
Okay.
So, and it sounds like you're gonna be going through this globally with everybody there, because everybody listed on that sheet is getting distributed amongst all the departments wherever they touch anything. And to Anthony's point earlier, if, there's the North Main Street reconstruction goes on, I can guarantee you, Chris, a ton of Christie's time is gonna be applied to that, because that's what happened last time when we did it down here, right? So, it's just, you have to get it close enough for rock and roll, just knowing that it's never gonna be exact, but you need to go through the process and look at it every year. And I don't know the last time this was looked at, but it's certainly been a number of years. And then, like I said, for us, the Graham was really the catalyst. And to Anthony's point, we're going from 29% to 50, so we're picking up 21%. And I just, the math is the math. It's about $20,000 a year, so.
Yep. So council, I want to make sure we focus our questions regarding DDA, and then we're going to deliberate around, we're going to hear PSD.
I just wanted to Councilmember Trent's inquiry. So the budgets still are annual. So even though the assessment's approved for 2 years, the actual budget itself is still annually have to be approved for both, even PSD as well.
Right, so what'll happen is that if we come back to next year, we didn't use those guys anywhere near as much as we thought we would. I don't expect that to be the case, but I'm just saying philosophically, then the PSD would have to figure out how to fix that hole in their budget.
Okay.
Yep. And my understanding is that the promotion staff, again, I'm breaking my own rule, I'm talking about PSD right now. The promotion staff went through in detail with spreadsheets and looking at their hours and things like that. They did quite a bit of work.
No, this was not one of those deals, right? So.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this, just clarification, this is directional, right? We're not approving this right now, correct?
No.
Is there a council action to approve it tonight, or do we wait to approve it with everything?
I thought it was part of the public hearing, if memory serves.
It's not approved tonight.
Not approved tonight.
Anthony can back up.
Right, because we still need to get the final numbers on the Graham, right? Because some of this discussion may change.
Well, we're gonna approve a budget. We have the public hearing April 28th. We're gonna approve the budget in May,
Okay,
the whole budget.
but we'll have those revised estimates, right?
Because this shows they've already made the PSD change, so we can't approve that tonight. Because we're not giving direction that this budget's okay because we haven't talked about the PSD yet.
I think we need to talk about the PSD, and then I think council needs to decide what action we want to take tonight. So other questions regarding the DDA, or Treasurer Maggio, were you clarifying something?
I just wanted to clarify, so budget-wise, as we're nearing the last now couple meetings coming up, and if there's anything, as pointed out, fundamentally that wants to be changed, that's the direction that we'll need, if there's gonna be things that need to be changed or updated. Otherwise, this is then gonna become finalized into the budget, and then we'll reprint that section of it, because council has been given tonight, those that didn't pick it up, they have the full budget now, except for DDA and PSD. So we kind of need a little bit of direction on this, where if it's like, okay, we're good in theory on, let's revisit some of this maybe next year, or wherever we're at, that's what we need, because we need to know, do we need to start printing this now or not? Or do we need to have, does the PSD need to have a meeting? We'll get to that one. But, for both of them, does DDA need to have a meeting? Because with some of these things like cross charges, they're both boards. So if you make changes to them, they're gonna both need to reconfirm on that. So that's kind of what we're looking at for budget-wise and process, and then we'd have the public hearing. Right now, separate DDA, PSD, the public hearing and adoption is both the 28th. We do them both on the same night, so that would still be on the upcoming 28th one. If we need more time on it, then we need more time. If we need more on DDA, PSD, we need more time. We want to get it right. And we have the chance to get the final numbers. That may be for the May meeting. Fantastic. But we want to prepare and get as much as we can done and correct so that council has good numbers and we can post it and everybody can see exactly what is being proposed for the upcoming budget.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. And for council, we have a rolling 3-year budget, but we approve 1 year of the budget. So speaking to the Graham, it's the 2.3 million in the next calendar year budget is what we would be approving.
Yeah, I think it's directionally tonight, and then you guys will get at least one, if not 2 or 3 more bites at the apple, depending on what Anthony just said you can pull out and do whatever. I can't, I'm trying to hurry up and get the bids back as quickly as possible. We were hamstrung by the planning commission. I don't want to say hamstrung, it's a process, right? No, I appreciate you guys. But in terms of time, let me clarify that. We love our friends at the planning commission. It was a timing thing. We had to get everything done, all the drawings done, and then get on planning commission. It's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of time, energy, effort, and life force to do that. So if we were able to get it to the March meeting, we would have been ahead of the game, but unfortunately, we didn't find out what we needed to find out until later. So I have nothing but love and respect for my friends in the planning commission. It's just, you guys are, I'm a CPA, and there's more process on planning than there is in accounting, so. Anyway.
Councilmember Trent.
Yeah, I just have a question. So how are you clocking? Is it a digital time clock or something that people are,
I don't think it's like a law firm when we're.
Yeah, that's what I mean. How is it tracked? Just curious how they track it.
That's an Anthony question, really.
Every single one of those positions there. I mean, how do I know that 37% of the city manager's time is spent on DDA? I don't. I just trust that that's the process, and he tells us that's the number, and that's fine. That's good enough for me.
That was I was trying to ask it when Anthony was up here, but sorry.
Got it.
He was gone. He left.
Ben, he'll answer it, but it's a number. He wants to talk to it.
You want to explain?
I left public accounting because I hated doing timesheets, so.
We're going to be looking at this, so you said we're going to look at this closer, and it's in spreadsheets, and that's a spreadsheet. I just had a question. Does anyone know how that's called?
Any other questions on the DDA budget? Okay. All right.
That's it?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's move on to PSD.
Sorry.
So is Anthony going to come up and tell me?
So I'm sure that you'll be happy to know that I do not have a presentation prep for you because you've already seen my presentation twice. And so I figured tonight instead, I would just talk to the council and echoing what Ben said and actually starting with Councilmember Sage's comments, absolutely right, we need to live within our means. And we are just fortunate that the grant happens to be happening right now so that we are able to take advantage of that situation and help us with the PSD. So if I can, I'm not going to go too far in the Wayback Machine, but if I could, because I think this will add a little bit of context and clarity to what the PSD is. PSD has been going on since the 90s, and when it was originally established, it was out of, the merchants had been putting monies aside and had them housed at the chamber where they were doing events. And that's how they first started the first promotional events downtown. DDA put in a little bit money, but they just didn't have enough to put any more because they had the big streetscape bonds. Out of a request from the merchants said, we want more, but the DDA said, we don't have more to give you, but would you consider a PSD, and explained what that was, a special assessment, all of that we went over the last time. And that's how the PSD was born. At the original PSD and for many years, the PSD was strictly for marketing and nothing else. It was defined to the businesses that the DDA staff would be working on all of the PSD things. And so any money that was raised through the PSD was strictly going to programming. And that's how it was sold for many, many years. Until, as it was referenced years ago, there was interest in splitting the two pieces. And when they did that, they shrank the PSD district. So right out of the gate, lost about $40,000 in that moment, and then formed a separate board, and then DDA went its way, and then PSD went its way. As time went on, in the immediate, there was a lot of discussion of, for instance, Ben referenced the website. There's not a PSD website, there's not a DDA website, there's a downtown Rochester website. We do merchant meetings, is that a DDA thing? Is that a PSD thing? We do the business directory. People are in the DDA, do they not get a business directory now because that's a PSD thing? So as the first iteration of the two separated, the DDA had come up with, I believe it was about $40,000 that they had allocated back to the PSD to help offset those costs, and saying, hey, people in the DDA, they shouldn't be punished because they aren't in the district anymore. But at the same time, everyone from the outside, who cares? It's one big district, so why shouldn't we all be together? Then as time went on and the Big Bright Light Show and all of these things started evolving, Big Bright Light Show, it's a beast in terms of the cost of it. We buy the lights, we have contracts that we go out for bid to get the best prices, all of that. That started to go up. And so we went to the DDA and said, as you always hear me talking about, that it's economic development. At the end of the day, it is economic development. And went to, at the time, Ben was on council when we were starting to have some of these discussions, and as well as serving as a resident member of the DDA. And that's where the originally what was 40,000 became 200,000. It started out, I think, about 150, if I'm not mistaken, and then went to 200,000 of a donation from the DDA to the PSD, because the PSD, again, was never meant to shoulder things like a big bright light show that is affected by inflation. Things that they're on a fixed income, but here's something that we just handed them that has increases every single year. And that's how things started going down that road. And then there was discussion of, okay, well, if we're sharing these things, then let's talk cross charges. All of the other groups have cross charges. I mean, I think the city pays a portion of me, and there's cross charges all over the place. So maybe we look at, the PSD is working on stuff, like I mentioned, the business directory and the downtown magazine and the website and the social media. There is value to that. To the DDAs, they're gonna pay the 29% of the events and marketing positions, and then the rest of it's paid by PSD, and then you add benefits and all of that. So again, what you've just done is you've taken a fixed income budget and added things that go up every single year. And this is where everything started to slide with the PSD in terms of the budget. This is not someplace we got overnight, but it is something that as we saw it, we wanted in our lens, and I don't want to steal Jill's thunder, but our lens has always been, how do we continue to deliver the value to our taxpayer? How do we deliver the maximum services that we can with the least amount of money? Maximize what we have. And so that's what we did. So then you start to see the fundraising side of the PSD raise. So we kept offsetting so that we could still continue to do things we were doing, pull something back, add something new, keep it fresh, keep going. As that started going on, until COVID hit, that's when things really hit the brakes for us. So the DDA paid the PSD assessment in 2000 for the merchants. But then beyond that, a lot of things started changing during that time. One of the things, unfortunately, that happened to us is that the company that we'd been with for 20 years, for example, that did all of our sound and power downtown for movies and Dancing in the Street and Lanyap, they had never raised our prices in 20 years because we always referred them all over the place, so they made their money off of getting new business, which is really cool. So we had a fixed rate for 20 years until after COVID he decided to retire. And then we had to go back out to market. And Nick is familiar with the company that we ended up finding in Southfield that was the lowest price, and the lowest price was 40% higher than what we were paying. So like I said, things were unraveling, and as they were. So then we came to you and said, and I think you might remember my words last year, I don't want to ask you for this increase, but I have to, because the DDA, or the PSD rather, had not had an increase in 5 years. Inflation had been going up, our costs had been going up. Not that we were spending on anything new, it was just the cost of us doing business as we were doing it was costing more. So when we came in for that, we thought that was going to buy us some time. And then when we came in, it would have been last fall, meeting with Marcy and Anthony and talking to them about, okay, what are we looking at? What does inflation look like? And they're like, okay, healthcare, right out of the gate, that's gonna be at least 10%. This, already hearing about from our company that does our lights, yep, it's gonna be 3%, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. So here we are at a little fixed income, raises, healthcare, 40%, all these things coming to a head at that moment. And so at that time, when we were sitting at the PSD, we said, I know they don't want to hear that we want an increase, but if we can at least get an inflationary increase, Anthony, when we talked with him, he thought 4% might be a good middle of the road number to try. Take that back and then figure out, okay, with that inflationary increase, then let's go through and let's be surgical about it and let's start picking what has to go, what has to be trimmed back, what we can do. So we came to you, we asked for that, said no go. Don't want to do an increase, can't do it, go figure it out. So then we came back, the last meeting, where what we had heard from you is you didn't want to increase the burden on the merchants anymore. I get that, 1000%, literally I should have a t-shirt that says it. Everything that we do is for the merchants. I take such pride in the fact that they entrust us with their dollars and that we spend them wisely and that we amplify them to the maximum they possibly can be. So we went to our friends at the DDA because we knew that this Graham stuff was coming, and we said, hey, let's have some ideas, working again with Marcy and Anthony and Nick, said, what if we picked up the staff, and instead of doing the cross-charge, let's move the DDA staff all into the DDA. And then that area where we have, okay, there's always raises, healthcare costs, pension, whatever, that lives at DDA, which is a fund that sees inflationary increases. So that would take the pressure off of the PSD to be doing that and give us a breather so that we could actually look at what we're doing and go forward. We had been raising the PSD basically to cover costs, not because we had all these great ideas for new programs, not saying we didn't do any, we just robbed Peter to pay Paul, fundraise more, whatever, to keep it fresh, to keep it moving, to keep it the program that everyone knows it to be. So then, when we came back to you, we said, you know what, we got a plan. We talked to our friends at DDA, they're gonna take the staff back. With doing that, that's gonna give us about $70,000 to the good in our budget. And we're gonna be able to lower the assessment by 5%. So we'll be able to do more, the merchants pay less, and we thought that was a great plan. You did not think it was a great plan. So you sent us away with 0, and here we are again. So then, when talking with Ben, as he said, nothing has changed. The Graham is still coming online. There is still a program that has to happen there. Regardless of anything, the farmer's market has to go over there because it doesn't make any sense where the DDA wants to generate the money, the revenue from the farmer's market and inside the building. Why would you muddy it up with having the PSD still have a finger in that? So move that over. That was a $9,000 loss to the PSD right there. So we moved that over, and then we started talking about adjustments in staff, which is how we ended up here. So the reason that the budget you have sitting in front of you that was in the packet is exactly that. I didn't want to prepare another budget because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little gun shy. 3 times it might be a charm, but I'm not sure. But what I wanted to do is see if everyone directionally can go with this idea that we feel is validated by the cross-charging, that we've proven our case. Like for instance, the farmer's market. Taylor works on that year-round, and it's a 26-week event. Why in the world would the PSD continue to pay her for that time when they derive no revenue from it? Same kind of thing. So what we are hoping tonight is to show you our static budget of what we usually do is there. If you approve this plan, this gives us an extra $36,000. We will then take, if everyone nods their heads at me and says, okay, we get it, let's go. Then we are immediately going to go back to our PSD board, call a special meeting, and dig into the budget and figure out, okay, with what we have, with money we have to mindfully set aside for potentially tax tribunal cases, although Jeff and I are usually pretty good at those. If There are some people successful, we have to keep that money aside. But then let's look at the whole thing, tear it down just like we did in February, but looking at a lens of what else do we want to bring to the table? Where do we need to tighten our belts? Where is there revenue opportunities? Where are some things that might have to go? And then we can come back to you. But we can't do that exercise if we don't know. We don't know what you're going to give us, we don't know what you're gonna say. It's our third trip. We thought maybe we could get a little something to let us know where we're going so we can come back and give you something. And I will tell you, number one on our hit list is to bring back the Fire and Ice Festival. It is, this is a fun fact, and it doesn't occur to me. I usually look at our financials as internal documents, and we never changed the line item that says Fire and Ice to Frost Festival just because we knew what it was. And I just have to write a GL number for expenses, so I never paid that much attention to it. But there seemed to be an opinion that, oh, well, you're bringing back Fire and Ice Festival, it's on here. You don't need this 36,000. But that's not it. We just never changed the GL number. Anthony said he can change it at any time. I just never asked him because we thought it was an internal document. We knew what it was. The budget that we put in there with that money for Fire and Ice is to do what we've been doing for Frost Festival. Collegiate carving, ice sculptures, lion's tent, big photo spots. That's about it. If everybody wants the Fire and Ice that we all know and love, that's probably a $50,000, $60,000 swing. We've been doing research, looking at things. We don't have the resources that the county does in terms of bobcats and people that know how to build sledding hills and ice rinks and all that stuff. But we found some other people. We found some other interesting things. But we want to be able to bring that back to you in a full 360 view. But we need this. We need to figure out if this is something council's going to consider, and if so, then we're going to get to work, sharpen our pencils, and get back to something that I think will show that we have listened to you, that we are respecting what you said, the partnership that you bring to us that we appreciate so very much, and also that we get back to exactly what our cornerstone is, which is delivering the best value to our businesses at the best rate, doing as much as we can with as little as we can. And that's what I got.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now PowerPoint. I'm almost twitchy.
Honestly, I think you present better without a PowerPoint. That was excellent, Christy. Thank you. And I just want to say that I really respect all the work that has been done by the DDA boards and the PSD board. And now I also respect the work that council does. So I would like council to ask their questions regarding the PSD budget. From my perspective, our role is the budget approvers. From my perspective, I am not into micromanaging what happens in the line items of the PSD and the event and this or that. I do think pruning and change is always good, and it's healthy. It's good for downtown. It's good for creativity. But I fully support the budget that has been presented tonight. So questions from council on the PSD. Councilmember Sage.
So I'm assuming that you look at all the programming that PSD does and you rate them, right? You assess an effectiveness score, an impression score, et cetera. So in that deliberation, I would assume you do it annually.
We do it every February. It's a part of our goals and objectives meeting.
So.
Jill's the chairman of our PSD, so she might be better at answering these questions than I am, but go ahead.
So you mentioned like Fire and Ice, bringing that back, right? So if that were to become a reality, you want to do it right, correct? So I guess I'm missing the part where you look at the whole programming menu and say, you know what, maybe I don't need to do this one event or this other event.
Sure.
That's the part, I guess that's the part I'm missing.
Sure. Do you want? Okay. All right. You tell me. You just tag me. So I think where we were going with it is that once we knew what we had, because we walked out of here with 0 twice, hoping we might get further than that, then exactly, I think this is what you're coming up to say.
Yeah, is that, we are happy to go back again. We've already done this in February. We will be happy to go back again and figure out where those things have to happen. But at this point, not having specific numbers that we can work with to know really realistically, are we in a surplus or are we in a deficit? As any good business owners, and that's not where I can sit to figure out what I have to give up and what I have to ask our team to say, hey, where do we get rid of things? How do we start scaling back? What's the best things for us? But if we're sitting with a surplus, now all of a sudden we have $36,000 this year that we can bring more things for Fire and Ice back. But at this point, at 0-0 and not having any other guidance, I can't give you what would go and what would come back.
But what I can tell you is at our last meeting, after we went back and told them that we went for this, thought we were hoped for this, got nothing.
Right.
And so we did two different things. We went through, because I will tell you, every February, we go through as a zero-based budget. We had already, usually, as we go through every event as it happens at the PSD, then we talk about it after it's done. What do we think? Did something need to change? What were the impressions? All that kind of stuff. So then, it's not that we're doing it all at one time, it's sort of gradually, and then we do it all again together in February to say, okay, remember this, people really love that, people, this one might be slipping, whatever it is. But we looked at it and said, okay, if we come back with zero, that's $68,000, that is 8 events. Simply, it's 8 events. It just is. And there's revenue offsets to get there, but about 8 events. And so when we were looking at that there could be a positive, that doesn't mean that I'm suddenly gonna go program 7 events, but it is, if we know what we have to work with, live in our means, then we're gonna go back and say, look, this is what we have. Let's go back through everything again. We've heard from the merchants. That's really where the Fire and Ice conversation is coming from. We've heard from the merchants. Frostfest is good. It's not as good as Fire and Ice. And we acknowledge that. I mean, the county brought the party. They brought the funding. They brought the volunteers. It's just not something physically that we can go buy. They've told us the loan is stages. Oh, okay. Cool. So we appreciate that, but we're probably gonna have to do something different than that. So for us to get there, if we can get a nod from you on that you're buying into where we're going with the cross charge, then we can go back to PSD and say, what stays, what goes, looking at a lens of, we've got 2 years to figure this out, because we're on to assess it, we still look at things at every 2 years. Because, I mean, some of the things, quite honestly, we're fundraising year round. I already have our Christmas sponsors. So we'd have to be refunding money if we start cutting things, which is fine, and that's absolutely what we would do. But we're already working a year ahead on everything. So we need to look at, okay, this is us in this moment, but we can't rest on our laurels and think, oh, well, this worked out nicely because, like Ben said, what if the Graham, we do a little less? Or we do a little more? Who knows? I wish, as I've said to Mayor Salvia many times, I wish I had a DeLorean. That would be super helpful, so that I can go in the future, see how it goes, and then I can prepare a budget for you. Unfortunately, we don't have that, nor do I have the budget for it. So, what we'd like to do, to answer your question, is take directionally something back to PSD, so then we can come back to you and have exactly that discussion.
So I'm heartened to know that you guys are planning that far in advance. So I'm gonna suggest something for next year, right? So we start our budget process in January. So why don't we start having our conversations? So we have 2 more meetings before we have to approve the budget. We do this every year.
Yeah.
We look at your budgets in the same cadence every year. Why don't we start it, I don't know, 2 months earlier?
I agree. And we do start earlier than January. We start way back in October. So
but
we
specific
should
to
pull
these
this
two-
ahead. We should pull this ahead.
Yeah, and
That's
we
my only
honestly, I totally agree with that. We went with we met all the deadlines that were on the budget paperwork from Anthony and Marcy. We actually were working ahead of where we were last time, but to work further ahead, as long as you guys don't get tired of seeing me, come on. It's no problem.
And I can say that our committee would be happy to do that also. And for us, it is helping Christy get through the December timeline and the big bright lights and everything else for us, but, I know my board well enough to know they'd be happy to do that for you.
Sure.
Thank
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so, just following up a little bit on that, and I understand why the budget got pushed back, because we've been changing it, so I get that. I mean, and I understand the cross charges, and, we can debate that, should it be 20, 30, I understand that's a complicated thing. But to me, and I've talked to a lot of people in the last week or so about PSD more than we'd all like. So, a year ago, you came back with 25%. Some of us thought that was way too high. It got passed, but it was kind of an assumption, don't come back with anything more. So you come back with more, 4% more, and we said no. So we thought we were done. We gave you your budget direction. Then you come back with -5 and 0 and stuff like that. We said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to stick with 0, 0. And we don't want the cross charges, and we don't want the DDA coming in and doing that. Your budget was 0, 0. And again, we thought we were done. And then, I've been on here long, we've never talked about cross charges. And now all of a sudden, well, we need to do these cross charges. And it looks bad. It looks like you didn't listen to what the majority of the city council wanted to do. So I think that's what's causing some of the problems is, you said you've been here 3 times. Well, it seemed like you didn't understand what we were saying, or you didn't want to understand what we were saying. So I think that's where I think a lot of people that I talk with have a problem with this. And I think that's where, yeah, the cross charges, you can argue that all day, and I'm not saying it's not something we don't look at, but, you know, it's like, well, we said no, well, now we're gonna come up with a way to make this all work because we don't really want to hear no. And I think a lot of people on the council didn't appreciate that. So that's my comment on what's going on.
Okay, any other questions on PSD budget? So from my perspective, specifically regarding that comment, I really disagree with that. All of my conversations.
That was on the record, wasn't it?
Well,
What we said here?
Well, what you said was completely opposite of what I recall from the record. So, you know, maybe the record is incorrect, but I just feel like it should be stated publicly that I thought we were going to have a -5. So, you know, has there been question? But I don't think we've given them clear direction. I mean, so I kind of put that back on us.
It may be. It seemed like there was clear direction from the people I was, you know, that it was, we didn't want the 5% and we didn't want to move it to the DDA. That was my impression.
Okay, so for council, so are we in a place where we can give them a head nod on the cross charges so that they can go back and look at that $36,000 and say, what do we do with that? Counselor King?
So I did miss the last meeting during spring break when we talked about, I think, the direction of the cross charges. I completely understand the fact that we've had major inflation issues, costs are increasing. And I think that, you know, with the Graham coming online, that is a lot of programming. I do think that some of that makes a lot of sense to me, that they would do that. And it does meet the goal of not having an increase for the business owners. I do think, though, as a city that, you know, we're in a different place maybe than we were in 1990, and we could be maybe a little more thoughtful with what programming we are doing, maybe not doing as much, but keeping things like the Fire and Ice Show, right? Bringing back stuff that's really appreciated, the big bright lights. I'm not going to be the one, I think, to make that decision, but I think directionally, I'm pretty satisfied with the fact that there's no increase to the business owners. I do think, you know, there are some key areas, I think, in here, when you look at revenue and event expenses, certain things that maybe are not covering as much from a cost standpoint or generating as much revenue that I think could be reevaluated. But I kind of want to leave that up to the PSD and the PSD board. But I think directionally, I'm happy that we're not passing on additional PSD charges to the business owners. That's just my personal view.
Okay. And we also don't have our PSD liaison here. Councilmember Jones that's her seat, so that's a little unfortunate tonight. Counselor Hauser.
Sure. I think everyone raises good points. We've all discussed our comments and we've all been here for the past meetings and, you know, I think we all bring a certain, you know, element as to say, hey, this is what would make me a little bit happier. But I think at the end of the day, you know, I don't know if I'm necessarily the one who's qualified to tell you what to do, what not to do. But I also think maybe there should be a little bit of emphasis on the quality versus quantity, you know, and I said this before that, hey, maybe we need to, you know, look at what we're doing and retool and cut some of these costs a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want to get in the way of your means and methods. You are the professionals, you know what you're doing, and if at the end of the day, I can respond to a business owner that says, hey, you didn't want an increase, we didn't get you an increase, you know, we kept it at 0, that's a box that we could check off. But I think also, though, that maybe moving forward based on Councilperson Sage's comment about, bringing it to us sooner, I think, Mayor, that was a really good suggestion that way we're all kind of on the same page and the same timing, so we don't have these kinds of conversations. But again, I think if I had to decide right now, I would probably say, yeah, this is workable, subject to obviously the caveats that I had mentioned. Okay.
Any other comments from council? So I guess I would really like some clarity for the PSD board. So I think maybe I would like a motion regarding approval of the cross charges that were presented, which would provide the PSD a budget of, I'll say, positive $36,000 for the 2026 budget year. I think we owe you that clarity in a motion, but I can't make a motion, so. And if we don't want to make that motion, then I think we need to make a separate motion. We got to give them clarity.
I'll make a motion to approve the cross charges of the PSD to the DDA for the work that is done for the DDA.
With the expectation that you'll be coming back with changes in terms of events and programming, et cetera.
You bet.
Thank you. Motion by King. Do I have support?
If you want to ask a
Marilyn is
question, I
smiling.
know. Go ahead.
Well, so the motion is, we're going to give them clarity for this cross-charge, and you're going to come back, and you'll have clarity for us. So it'll be double clarity.
Yeah, and we'll have a proposed budget that incorporates the amount given to us because of the cross-charge change.
So we won't be looking at the same thing that we have in front of us?
You will not.
Okay.
But will the budget number be the same?
Probably, but I'm just saying, I mean, we're talking about, we've been at, are we taking turns?
I'm looking for a second on the motion.
I'll second it.
I thought this proposal in front of us includes the cross-charge.
No, what I did, because we didn't know where we were going, is just showing you as the current static budget for the DDA, or for the PSD rather, if we went forward just doing exactly last year's programming, that was what it would look like, and then we'd have a $36,000 surplus. So what we wanted to do is come back, because this does not include doing the expanded fire and ice, any of that kind of thing. So we would like to know what our bottom line number is, so then we can go back and figure that out, which is what Councilmember King's motion was
But
indicating.
this does shift the big bright light show to the DDA.
Correct.
Yeah, this shows.
And then it's a 50-50.
But it doesn't, with the 36, it doesn't give a final budget in terms of programming, I guess. to
Right,
clarify
it's the
that.
programming that
It's the
comes back.
programming piece that's seen when everyone
Yep.
is.
Counselor Trent.
So to clarify, it also includes the 50-50 cross-charge.
Correct.
That's how we got to 36, just,
Correct.
that's right.
It's that
But
plus
this is not the final budget variances of how events you're going to have and the cost of each one.
Exactly, this
Okay.
includes moving, big bright light show.
Yeah,
farmer's
okay,
market, that
that's
stuff.
what you need the head nod or.
Yeah.
We're going to have a
Motions.
motion. We have a motion on the
Okay,
floor.
yes.
And you have seconded it.
Yes, I did.
Is there any other
Is that
discussion
clear?
on the motion? City Clerk, the roll call, please.
Salvia,
Yes.
Vixen,
No.
Hauser,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
No.
Trent,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Looking forward to the next discussion.
There might be a presentation, I apologize.
As I sat in my office and beat on the table, we spend more on this $20,000 line item in our $17 million budget than anything else. So, congratulations. All right,
I'm not
so
supposed to feel bad about that, am I?
moving on to, what are we on? Okay, item D. Request to reschedule the public hearing. So this was a city council public hearing scheduled for April 28th. And this was the one to amend the city official zoning map. So this is a request to change it to a date in the future because we had set these at the January meeting, but Planning Commission is still deliberating on this. We just had a public hearing, so we just want to notify the public that it's going to be moved to a date in the future.
Exactly.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion for that.
Motion by Hauser.
I'll support.
Support by Trent. City Clerk, the roll call, please.
Salvia.
Yes.
Vixen.
Yes.
Hauser.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item E is regarding the Solaronic site. Request from Champion Development Group to update City Council on this site, 704 Woodward, the environmental conditions. So, City Manager, are you starting this?
I will, I'm gonna make
Thank
sure I
you.
don't do what I normally do, which is do the whole presentation for them. So, they have the development teams here. Circumstances have changed since this was approved by City Council as a special project to do with the brownfield situation, the $1 million grant from Eagle, et cetera. So, Mr. Amborski is with Champion, and they're going to bring us up to date what they know today. That a lot of this took place last week with Eagle and some different attitudes that's changed coming out of Washington. So with that, you may, Madam Mayor, Sobolowski.
Thank you. You have the floor. If you could remind me of your name again, please, and the public.
Doug Hamborski.
Doug, thank you. You got a presentation up there?
PDFs. Let me see if this will launch.
See, Nick, you should have talked longer.
Exactly.
First time.
Yeah, so we're not here to talk about the development.
Right.
All that's been approved, nothing's changed. This is simply, at the time it was approved, we were led to believe from Eagle that we were going to get $1 million grant to help with the what was estimated about $3.2 million brownfield. All those rules have changed from Eagle as of last week. So they're going to talk about where they're at, what they're capable of doing, and what they need from us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, thanks. We're glad to be here. We wish we didn't have to be here, but we're here. So here's the quick update, a little refresher of who we are and what the project is. So Len and I, Champion Development, go back close to 30 years, doing lots of projects between here and Florida, and very proud of the work we've done in all the communities. And that's kind of our mission statement, essentially trying to find challenging sites and turn them into something good for the community. And we do have a strong track record doing that. And this site fits that category. So here's a quick summary of the project. 45 townhomes, 2.5 stories, either 2 or 3 bedrooms. They're around 2,500 square feet each. 2 baths, private balcony, 2-car garages. You know, all new site, all new utilities, landscaping. It's just going to be, frankly, gorgeous. This is our preliminary site engineering, which shows the network of all the sewer and water and a new stormwater detention system for the entire site. And one of the issues that is relevant for our discussion tonight is the one at the bottom. All the new townhomes will be built over a vapor mitigation system, which is why the state sent us down the road here. So here are just some more images. I'm going to hand it over to our environmental consultant, Sarah Joe from, it was PM Environmental, they're now called Pinchin. So.
Good evening. So the history of the property has been a long time industrial use. First building was built in 1930s. First recorded business was in the 1950s as heating and cooling manufacturing. It was likely that the property was used by the Wilcox Paper Company and Detroit Sugar Company, but no building was built on it in the 19th century. Most recently it's been Solaronics, and then it's been vacant for the last 5 years. I think I got it. So PM went around digging, and we found lots of contamination in the soil, in the groundwater, and soil vapor. So that is why we are here, is that we are going to request a brownfield TIF, and we wanted to just let you know what the site conditions were before we did that. Essentially, the facility the property qualifies for brownfield TIF because it is a facility. The plan aligns with the master plan because at the end of the project, you're going to see a huge increase in taxable value per acre. And within the master plan, it states that you're landlocked. And in order to encourage new development, you're going to have to look to old industrial spaces. And it's likely that you will need to include TIF as a part of those projects in order to return them back to the highest and best use. So here are the cost estimates. Act 381 allows all cities and townships and villages to collect tax revenue in order to reimburse developers for demolition, environmental assessments, asbestos activities. In addition to that, Rochester can approve the capture of taxes for department-specific activities, which means EGLE activities or due care or response activities. Each of these activities, along with the price tag, is to deal with the environmental conditions. Vapor mitigation system is because there's a vapor encroachment issue. Utility migration barriers and gasketing is to keep the contamination that is in the soil from entering the pipes. UST removal is, there are 2 remaining USTs on site. They were closed in place in the 90s. Those need to come out. Contaminated water, when they have to dewater in order to put in the foundations, in order to put in the new utilities, that water will be contaminated and it cannot be disposed of just down the drain. We need to treat it before we send it to the disposal company. All of the soil that has to come off site in order to put those infrastructure and foundations in has to be taken to a type 2 landfill, and there's an additional cost to do that. The excavation of that soil is not a covered expense, just the transport and disposal of it. And then environmental sampling, reporting, making sure that the developers do everything that they have to do per EGLE. A contingency because, things go wrong. We discover more than what we thought because everything's in the ground, we can't see it. And then to write the brownfield plan and the work plan, which we do plan on going to EGLE for a request for school taxes, is also covered. So, approval process, we present to you, you give us a head nod to go ahead and proceed and take it to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. They approve it. There's a public hearing and a city council final approval. Reimbursement agreement between the BRA and the developers. And then from there, we can apply to EGLE for the work plan approval. So timeline, best case scenario is the TIF approvals come by the end of July. A year and some months later, we have 15 units in the ground. A year later after that, 15 more. 3 years, the whole units, 45 units are done. The current taxable value is $507,000, which equates to about $28,573 of tax revenue for local jurisdictions. At the completion, with the 45 units are done, you're going to look at a taxable value of $13.7 million, which will increase the tax revenue for the local jurisdictions to $511,442. Approximate payback period for all of those eligible expenses is 10 years, and that includes the ramp up between today, site clearing, and then 3 years to build out all 45 townhomes. So here is your development team, Lynn, Michael, and Doug. I'm Sarah Jo Shipley with Pension, and Adam Patton is our vice president, and he has been the technical advisor on this project. So that's my brief overview.
Yep. Thank you, Sarah. Yep, so what we're looking for tonight is a head nod that we are interested in partnering with Champion Development to start the brownfield process. It would go to the Brownfield Authority, which is an independent board, which will make a recommendation back to this body with a public hearing to make a decision as to accepting or not accepting the recommendation of the Brownfield Authority. We will work with Kurt Brower from Warner Way across the,
Warner.
there it is, thank you, to be our environmental attorney. So they pick up that cost. They pick up both costs. They have their own attorneys, we have ours. Our attorneys and their attorneys work together to get to the Brownfield Authority, so they have all the information that they need to make a decision, time frame, all that good stuff. So, so that's it.
One question.
Yeah, Counselor Hauser, Counselor Trent, I saw both your hands.
Go ahead first, please. No.
I just want to talk about the contamination. That's quite a lot. It went from like 1 million, maybe, a possibility, to now 3.
I don't know who put up the $1 million amount.
Well, it's kind of, it was a guesswork, but anyway, I'm quantifying it by money, but, you know, it was the first thought. It always starts, usually, I've been here a few years, starts at 1 million. It did too. But my question is, so I'm assuming you can't guarantee it's not leaching into the creek, which is quite near there, right next to it, or it's leaching into the other properties like the Eagles, or, you know, how can you, I mean, you're assessing the actual footprint, you're not looking at the outside periphery.
Well, we can't identify where the source of the contamination is from. It might not be from this site. It might be from off-site migrating on. So because we don't know where it's coming from, we can't say that it's migrating anywhere else.
Or it's like not going into the creek or anything else, you can't really, you're just gonna, and how close are you going, because you don't have jurisdiction, at my understanding, with that, the Paint Creek, right?
Well, I can say that this project will not exacerbate or cause any migration into the creek. If it is going there, I don't know.
Okay.
But this project will not exacerbate it or cause it.
Okay, I just was curious as to how they assess that.
They are removing a certain amount of soil and groundwater, so we'll certainly be improving things.
Counselor Hauser.
I have a couple questions, Ms. Shipley. So with respect to the change in policy from Eagle, can you give us some information, if you know, what that change in policy was from initially when this project was approved to April 14th?
So initially, Eagle said, we will participate, consider the grant request, but we will not consider the vapor system, payment for the vapor system, because it is owner occupied. So we said, okay, there's $3 million. Can you cover the soil costs, contaminated water, some testing? And then that's how we were proceeding. We're getting ready to submit the grant, and they say, if there's vapor involved in the project whatsoever, we cannot participate. So there was a change in policy somewhere in the last month.
And if I read the note that she had sent to Len, it says if the project was not owner-occupied, Eagle would be able to consider the project. Can you explain to us the distinction between owner-occupied and not owner-occupied?
Sure. The Rochester Riverfront project has a vapor system, and Eagle is participating in that. Because there's going to be a management system, Eagle feels comfortable with the oversight of that system, and Eagle does not feel comfortable that homeowners, and in this case, the condo association will maintain and keep track of the system. That is their stance.
Okay, but is there a way that the condo docs or the homeowners or the developer could mandate that the owner occupants are required to continue to monitor this vapor system?
The developers came up with something pretty quickly. I can let them describe what it's going to be.
We had a good discussion with the rep at Eagle, and
Was this
we
Michelle
spent about
Bacon?
10 minutes, Michelle.
Yeah.
Spent about 10 minutes on that topic, and we say, well, mandate, a maintenance program that has to take care of the system, which doesn't need a lot of maintenance, so we're comfortable with that. And she kind of cynically said, well, once the board gets in position of the homeowners, not the developer, they can amend their condo docs to adjust how they do or don't handle that maintenance.
This is a question maybe for city attorney or for city manager. This is a special project, is that correct? If they were to come back to the Brownfield committee and seek approval, could one of the conditions be, as part of this review, would they have to come back for site plan approval? They would not. Would one of the conditions be through Brownfield that we'll participate and we'll be a partner in this, but under those condo docs, there has to be some type of mandate or some type of language in there to revise those documents, to get you what you need, Len, so you can go back to Eagle and say, hey, we're bound by this. So Eagle, you know, we're stuck too.
We're going to talk to Kurt. He's the expert at all this
Okay.
stuff, and I think Eagle doesn't care less what we do. It's like, you guys want to make that agreement? Go ahead. I don't get that, because the bottom line is you want some responsible party forever to take care of the vapor barrier, whether it's Eagle overseeing it or us. I don't get it. So Kurt wrote the documents for the state. He might have more insight into all of this. We're going to find out as soon as we can.
And I'm asking only because I happen to be the chairperson of the Brownfield, and so it's going to come to me one way or the other, and so I want to get in front of this because I'm going to have to answer to them, but also to my colleagues up here too. So that would be helpful information. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just want to tag on that. You know, I support brownfields. This is a method, this is a way to clean up a site. We all want this site cleaned up. It's too close to our precious river. It's very important. I would like to get this money from Eagle. That's important. However, we probably would have the same concern on the ongoing maintenance of this site with this vapor barrier. And I would really like those legal conditions put in this as part of it, because we want to make sure that that is maintained. Whether it's an HOA board or a property owner or whomever, we want to make sure that's maintained.
Well, that sounds like something to put in the reimbursement agreement.
Yes. Excuse me, Len Nadolski. I had the conversation with Michelle, and I'm used to this a little bit. So I suggested a perpetual lifetime maintenance agreement written within the condo docs to support the maintenance of this, because common homeowners won't understand the depth we're talking about. However, this particular system is relatively simple. It's like a radon type system you put in your normal home. And the way they've designed it's pretty good. We've used this in several other locations. They were in more apartments that we own, so we know that system's there. We have a maintenance agreement, and we refer to that all the time to make sure it's operating. So we brought that up to Michelle, and she just was not interested because they could change the condo docs. However, what we would write in our condo docs is that it's non-reversible, and try to make it as a perpetual maintenance agreement that someone's got to look at the system and do it. It's for the welfare of the people as well. And that's what we
Right,
wanna
which
make
is
sure.
why I'm thinking, how can the city be the third party in that?
Well, would-
Because,
So wouldn't you have to write that so we maintain it, but it's your responsibility to fund it in perpetuity?
Could be.
could be.
I think that's where the legal will
Yeah,
get
we need a
together,
legal opinion on
and
that.
We're prepared to do that, and the way that the system's designed, it's not a whole lot of money at all. It's not, with the type of fan systems that are put in that need to be done. The big cost is to put the vapor barrier in, remove the soil, and the work that's done with it, so. But they just, on the grant, said, nope, not interested. Now, if it was a rental property that you would own perpetually, then they would be interested in it. That's how it got done in the other locations.
One more
Yeah,
question.
Counselor Hauser.
So just to be clear, the ask is if you were to go to Brownfield 2.9, correct? If for some reason there was a change in circumstance where the state gave you that $1 million back, would you still need to come to the Brownfield or no?
Yes, you would, because.
For the
state-
1.8 or the
for
1.9?
The deficit.
The delta? Okay.
And that is a fair estimate at this time.
Right.
We feel real confident about it. I will tell you that we've got hours into that, and we've got some of our own people that are doing it with PM and Pynchon. And we've done this work before, and we're hoping we can come in a bit lower than that, is what we're hoping.
And the good part is with TIF, if they don't spend it, you don't have to reimburse.
You don't reimburse it,
Right.
and we
Right.
have to document, notarize every receipt that comes through, and we're used to that. And we take pride in kind of being a good steward of that as well.
And I saw it was a 10-year repayment program.
We'll negotiate that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
We like
because
7, so-
that's a little bit longer for, I just want to give you the heads up that that would be a lot longer than what we were used to.
Yeah.
I understand, but. that is
39
definitely-
cents of every dollar stays in the city.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.
Hopefully, we can be good stewards of those funds as well. Get
I
to
appreciate that.
your goal as well.
All right.
Thank you. Council, any other questions? Is it fair to say we have a head nod that? Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item F, consideration for city council to adopt a resolution so the city manager can submit for reimbursement to Oakland County for the amount of $1,966.28 under the West Nile Virus Prevention Reimbursement Program. Council?
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Sage. City Clerk, the roll call.
Salvia.
Yes.
Vixen.
Yes.
Hauser.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is item G, the check register report. Wondering why this wasn't under the consent agenda, but
Sure, either, sorry about
any
that.
questions on the consent agenda? Any items, city manager? Okay. Moving on to reports from boards and commissions. Item A, Historical Commission. Counselor Sage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple quick updates. May 10th, we will be embarking on the headstone cleaning project with the volunteers and with the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I think the city is going to be involved as well. The plaque for America 250 is scheduled to be delivered to the DPW based on its size and obviously the involvement of the DPW to install it eventually. And it doesn't make sense to send it here to City Hall. That should arrive in the summer with an installation proposed date of July, August, I think is where we're at. And that's it.
Okay, so Counselor Sage, regarding the Historical Commission, we've had some discussion about, we've got some open positions there, and we're talking about staffing that up and having that committee be the group that oversees Heritage Days. You know, we're taking a hiatus this year from Heritage Days, next year for America 250, bring it back. So those applications are out, and we're taking those applications, so I'm thinking we may need to have some sort of meeting, or maybe the next Historical Commission, some discussion around what that would look like.
So I can tell you because I was part of that, when I started my involvement with the city was to get on to the Historical Commission. And we had a actual separate committee with multiple stakeholders in the community, the Greater Rochester Heritage Days Committee. And it involved Dinosaur Hill, it involved the chamber, obviously the Historic Commission. I think something like that is going to be needed again, to where we have commitment from even our sister city, the Hills, and some of those other stakeholders to make this work.
Yes.
It is too
Yes.
much of a lift for
It is.
the Historical Commission. I can tell you that. We will definitely need additional resources.
Okay, thank you. Rochester Youth Assistance is next. That's Counselor Jones, so we'll put that to the next meeting. Rochester Avon, rah-rah.
So we're actually meeting Wednesday.
Okay, so this,
In here was from February, which I think I actually wasn't at that one, but we did an update at the last council meeting. So nothing new.
Okay.
I'll have an update at the next one.
okay. Moving on to Cemetery Advisory. City Clerk, I don't know if you have any update on that with Counselor Jones not
I
here?
don't know if Jason and Nick have been attending the meetings, so
Or should we just have it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, next meeting. Planning Commission.
Certainly. Okay, we had our Planning Commission meeting on April 8th, 2025. That was last Monday, and I can tell you, we've had some crowded meetings in the past, but this was probably the most well-attended meeting that I've ever been a part of, and here's what we discussed. First, we approved the site plan for the community house, and specifically the most current iteration of the plans for the new construction. And then we also approved the use and location of a tent for the outdoor gatherings. Second is we approved the modified site plan for the Graham, which Ben had spoken about, which of course, will be the new home of the farmer's market. Third, we addressed an issue where a property owner had made significant and unauthorized changes to the exterior elevation on a structure on North Main Street. Unfortunately, those changes were made without prior approval or consent of the building department, the planning commission, or anything, so the PC voted unanimously to direct the property owner to restore the building to its original condition. And then if there was a desire on their part, they could certainly resubmit their plans and propose changes. But the short version is they were told to put it back how they found it. And then fourth was the discussion on the zoning. And the majority of the meeting was spent discussing those changes in town. We heard from several residents who shared their views on the proposed changes. And it became clear during the meeting that there was a lot of information that had been presented to us, not necessarily for the first time, but it certainly was a substantive and important conversation. And it was decided that the Planning Commission was going to table it in order to allow the city and the city planner to set up office hours on Thursday, April 17th, and those are going to be from 1 to 4 and 6 to 7:30, wherein residents can schedule times with a city representative as well as a city planner and ask questions that they may have concerning their property or maybe an adjacent property that is the subject of a possible change in zoning. And again, that's Thursday, April 17th, from 1 to 4 and 6 to 7:30. And then that was really it. And so what'll happen is we'll have another meeting, obviously, in May. I don't know yet if that will come back. I guess it'll be the timing, but it was tabled for a planning commission meeting in the future. And that's my update on the planning commission.
Correct. So from council's standpoint, this is the future land use map that needs to get through planning commission, and then it comes to us, and we do the process again. We go over the language, we have a public hearing, we go over the interactive map, and we have a public hearing on that. The interactive map is excellent, so I just want to thank if it was video, whomever did all the work on that. I've spent a lot of time clicking on all the different colors on the map. You can see the old zoning, the proposed new zoning. I know the public is using it. From my standpoint, a lot of the public comments revolved around 326 Albertson. There was a lot of public comments on South Street. Public comments that didn't make the meeting, but we had quite a few after, was making sure that we were not allowing pot on Main Street. People out there want to make sure that that vote really put that to bed. And then also, I had quite a few questions regarding the transitional districts. So just kind of wanted to highlight some of the main topics and what we heard in the public hearing. Counselor Sage.
So when that passes through the planning commission and it comes to council, it'll come in pieces, right? Or is it going to come as one big thing?
We'll get the language for the ordinances.
But we'll be able to deliberate each?
And we'll deliberate on all of those.
Right, but not collectively, right?
Collectively, all of them. Same way planning commission did.
I only get one vote on all of that, right?
Yes.
You can have discussion, the first reading will be for discussion, and then we don't have to do it that night. And we can make modifications to each district, anything we want, just like the planning commission is doing. So it's not all or nothing. We can tweak things. You get two shots at planning commission and city council.
Right, but I'm under the understanding that when I go to vote, it's all or nothing.
Correct. So after the comments are made, if there are no comments, we vote it all, it's good. If there's comments, we can wait another meeting, decide majority rules. If we want to change the comments in each district, if we do, that's fine. Then bring it back to the next meeting for a final vote.
I would view it as like a consent agenda. And if there is something that has to be pulled, we could consider that. But I think the hope is, like it went through planning commission, the language went first, and then the map.
Thank you. So when's the planning commission going to vote?
We don't know when the planning commission is going to vote, because we're in the public hearing process. We realized at the last public hearing we needed more time, and so we're going to take as much time as we need. We need to hear from the property owners. Okay. Last item is actually second to last, Sister City.
Yes, that is me. On April 1st, we met, and this year, we have been having different executive directors or board chairs from nonprofits come and present to us. And this last time we met, we had David Ward come and meet with us, and Lynn from Rochester Area Recreation Authority, and Lindsay Wood from Rochester Raya. We had Raya and Rara, so Rochester Area Youth Assistance. And so, yeah, so basically, David Word talked about what the mission was of Rara, and he said it is to strengthen the community through play. How fun, right? And they service this region, or basically City of Rochester, Rochester Hills, Oakland Township through sports, camps, and events. They are growing and expanding. They are busting at the seams, they said. They actually said they were looking for additional locations they could grow into more, but they've just moved there. So I don't want to throw out anything that isn't going to happen within the next 3 or 4 years. They said they've tripled in they have full 8-week programs. They've tripled in registration. They have their latchkey program as well. Their camps is the biggest programs that they offer, and they talked about having movies in 5 locations in Rochester Hills in the summer. I think I've got this right. Okay. It was a lot. And I didn't know they did all this, actually. I was very impressed. And they said they're at Hallbeck and J.C. Fields a lot, and their average age is 6 to 14. So, and I got to say, just a plug for them, they are going to plant a pollinator garden next to their hammock park, or whatever they call it, hammock park. So Lindsay Wood, the board chair of Raya, spoke to us about Raya, and, it was founded in the 1960s in Hazel Park, and they wanted to keep kids out of the court system. They're like, how do we do this when they're kids, like juveniles, when you know that either they could go one way or they could go the other way? And so it is grown, and it is they have it in many community schools as a branch, in Oakland County has several as well, and Raya is ours. They offer financial assistance, counseling through a caseworker, that is to keep them out of the courts, that's what you would need, family education, and they have an active youth council, which we talked about that a bit, and Camp Safari. And they have their annual Student Service Awards that we just went to last month. So they're a great organization, and I was on their board for a while.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the update.
Yep.
I think we've already talked enough about Principal Shopping District.
Sure.
So moving on, is there any other public comment tonight? Okay, I'll move on to general miscellaneous. So back table back there, chiefs, anything? I got a lot of thumbs up. Okay, all right, back table is good. City Clerk?
I actually have 3 items, Your Honor. First is a reminder that next Tuesday, April 22nd at 4 p.m. is the deadline to file petitions to run for City Council this year. And we are closed this Friday, the 18th, for Good Friday. So you're 1 day short on your business day, so that leaves you 5. Second, Brian and I should get you all the boards and commissions applications and all that information in the next day or 2. And then finally, I had a conversation with the city attorney, and he and I are looking for a head nod from council to see if you want us to proceed on a potential charter amendment to eliminate our primary elections. We're not required to have one. We're one of only 7 in the county that still has a primary election. Obviously, it would be cost savings, so and we're looking for, should we continue down this path and present something to council at a meeting in May?
And it wouldn't be effective for this calendar year.
It couldn't, because it'll have to
But
go.
it would be future.
Yes.
It's just strictly for city council elections, correct?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
So under that charter amendment, it requires a 2/3 majority to change that, to change a charter item?
No. We would, your vote would be to put the resolution, we would send it to the governor, and it would have to go on the ballot, which it wouldn't make it for August of this year, even if we do have one. So the soonest it would be November.
But the ballots cast, then, does it have to be a 2/3 majority?
No.
It's just a majority,
Correct,
and we can change the charter?
correct.
Okay.
So is
Is
that?
that a head nod?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
City manager?
Just like to wish everybody a happy Easter week and Passover week, and Attorney Crott has waived the ground feeding of Easter bunnies for this week.
And they could get water too, right? Thank God.
Really? Really?
Dehydration for
City attorney, moving right along,
nothing after that.
okay.
It's got the same name.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I would just like to wish everybody a happy Easter, and also shout out to Mary Lee from the Community House. When I first got on council, I knew her. She actually created the Community House.
Yeah.
She went around and got donations and stuff for it. So, I mean, it was an incredible person, and she did a great thing for the community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Counselor Sage?
Nothing this evening.
Counselor Trent?
I think I said enough.
Mini Forest, we're all educated.
Forrest, you are.
Yeah.
60
Counselor Hauser?
seconds.
Yeah.
I had a really great opportunity yesterday to meet with Jenna Yezek and her colleagues, I think Barb and Ann, at their facility. This is the Assistance League of Southeastern Michigan. And I'm going to be quite candid with you. I really wasn't familiar with what they had done and what they do until I stopped over there and I saw their facility. And if there's anyone who's ever interested in volunteering or learning more about this organization, what they do, I highly recommend and encourage you to reach out to them. It's a really, really remarkable thing that they do for the community. And, you know, I can't say enough nice things about what you guys do and what you've done. And obviously, you had a packed crowd here last Monday night, so clearly it's made an impact on the community. So thank you very much for what you do. That's all I've got.
Thank you. I've just got a few calendar items, just really want to bring some awareness on. One is that we're completing staffing out the committee, so the application, so you can still recruit and bring some people in, and I really want to work on Heritage Days and that effort. We already talked about Arbor Day, but Arbor Day is April 22nd. It's also Earth Day, so 10 a.m., meet us at Scott Park. Also, some of the HOAs on the east side are encouraging neighbors to do a cleanup day in your neighborhood. So go out, grab a bag, and pick up some trash. Some of them are, you know, incentivizing it with prizes. So I think Earth Day is a great day for everyone to just take care of our community. Then we'll have our ribbon cutting and planting of the mini forest on May 3rd at 2 p.m. And Memorial Day is coming up, so we will be meeting at 8 a.m. in the Mount Avon Cemetery. So I'm encouraging all of our veterans to come out. We will be doing some special recognition and honoring our veterans. So council, if you know a veteran in town, typically they don't come unless you invite them. So please invite them. If you know a vet, please bring them. It's going to be special. It's going to be really special. And from there, we will parade over to the Rochester Hills site. So we're kind of going back to how we used to do things in the old days. Also want to let everyone know that we will be having the State of the City this fall. So sometime September, October, I'll work with city administration to set a date and put a save the date out. Sometimes we have done it in the spring. I think it works better with our budget cycle to have it in the fall, but I just wanted everyone to know we haven't forgotten. We're going to do it September, October. Lastly, we've all got our budget binders, so this is our opportunity to go through all those line item details, so make sure you do that. Make sure you meet with Anthony and Marcy and get all those questions answered. And then lastly, have a very blessed Good Friday and Happy Easter.
Hey, you want to talk about Heather today? That was pretty, Heather Toko.
Okay, I'll talk about Heather Toko. So today, Senator Weber and Representative Tisdale gave Heather Toko at the Home Bakery a beautiful proclamation from the city. We also gave her an amazing proclamation talking about the $44.1 percent increase in foot traffic in downtown Rochester due to her and her team's amazing creativity. So she was so humbled, so honored. But really impressed me was she said her business is still up significantly last year to this year. So she's still seeing the impact, and she's probably going to be hiring some new people. So, and she has 25 bakers. 25.
25, yeah.
So
That's amazing.
it was a great day. Thank you, Councilmember Trent, for being there. It was very cool. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
10 o'clock.
That's it.